And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. Going to be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for now. So, it's Red Dawn Day. So August 10th is the date that the movie came out back in 1984, and threw the link out there. Figured we could chat about Red Dawn. Super distracted, obviously. I probably should have taken the dog out. Gotta turn this off over here. And I don't know if this will it'll probably get demonetized for sure. I don't know if I guess they'll just demonetize it for playing the intro, because I've done the intro before. And it gets picked up, especially I let it play for a while, a minute. So I don't know if that gets recognized by very many people. Maybe if you've just seen the movie, but I don't think there's enough stuff going around out there from the movie that the intro would be recognizable to most people, other than the robots that check for that kind of stuff. So we'll see if anybody jumps in tonight, and that's what the show's all about lately, is just opening up a room for a conversation. I was just over hanging out with a bunch of people from Never Enough Ammo's chat. I got to jump in on that one today. I woke up a little bit earlier than normal, which I think was a bad idea. Super hot. But had a chance to chat with them and jumped over here so we could go live. And since it's Red Dawn Day, talk about Red Dawn stuff. Pretty cool movie. Let's see. So I've, I think starting in with Bob. So Bob, co-host of this show back in the day. Me and him were driving around, and I think that's when we first started going. Is that when we first started going to Red Dawn places? So as soon as I figured out where the Red Dawn places were, I figured out I wanted to go there. And I got an idea of where they were the first time in 12, and we didn't go there. Oh, snap. What am I saying? No, in 12 is exactly the first time we went there. All right, so we were just talking about the cop car off here there, too. There's a link out here again, so you don't have to hear me drinking if there's other people in here. But so in 2012, I had the idea to try to get a bunch of people together. So grabbed Haas, my friend Haas USMC, because he was a bum. And I said, hey, if I pay for everything, can you go around with me for like a month and let's go hang out with all kinds of people from, the gun community? And he's like, sure. So took all my YouTube money, which was about $3,000, and I had just wrecked my. Is that how it went? I had wrecked my truck. So I had this truck that I bought when I was making real money, and I got some kids stopped in front of me, and I hit them, and it wrecked this truck. So I was driving around a wrecked truck for a long time, and that was getting to be too much. It was falling apart. So I got a cop car, and I decided before the cop car got too destroyed, just because I bought a 2000 cop car. No, it's a 1999 cop car in the year 2012. So it's an old cop car. And before it got too much more ruined, I wanted to give it a road trip or do a road trip in a cop car, right? So that's when I said, hey, Haas, let's go. Had Oro. So it was me, Oro, and Doberman, and Haas. And we basically loaded up the stuff with supplies and headed out. And our main goal is to go to the castle in New York, the Bannerman Castle. We didn't actually end up getting there, but we got all the way to DC. And on that trip, that's when I knew I wanted to hit a couple of things. And one of them was the Red Dawn filming locations. So we headed up to Albuquerque from Tucson, and then up to the Las Vegas, Las Vegas, New Mexico, which is, if you look at where Albuquerque is and you look at where Colorado is, just draw a line between them, and that's where Las Vegas, New Mexico is basically. It's just on the way to Colorado from Albuquerque. And since it's the mountains, you can't just drive a straight line. You have to kind of curve around. So anyway, it's on that road. And I think there's a railroad or something back in the olden days. In fact, I know there's a railroad back in the olden days that this highway must parallel. The cop car, yeah, I still have the cop car. I just have it. It cost me, I think they told me it cost me $40 a year to have it parked in the driveway. So I have it, just I don't drive it, and I only insure it to have it sit there. So I technically own it. No, last time I seen saying if I kept in contact with Haas, Haas doesn't do much. He's not doing stuff online as much, I don't think, anymore. But he started doing, after the adventure we had in 2012, we kept in touch a little bit. And of course, 12 was a pretty fun time of growth, and it was the end of the assault weapons ban, and there was like an increase in interest, a surge in interest in firearms in general, but in training, which we were both interested in. So though it was the heyday, I guess you could say, there was a lot of trainers, they were much younger. So they were still in their, they're still in their prime. So they're definitely in their prime then. So there's a lot of stuff to experience, and then not too much to worry about. We were winning. And then, of course, right at the end of that trip that we took, we got back in October, and then in December was the bullshit in Connecticut. So in January at SHOT Show was the 23 executive actions from Obama, or the 23, what did you call them? The 23 threatened, executive actions. So so that was a time when it was just a weird time. Like I couldn't do nothing with all, it was just a pain in the ass. Everybody was doing things, and there was a surge in interest in, I don't know, awareness, I guess, or, activism and stuff. And when everything came up from that, Haas was interested in doing training and talking about that. I was done. I was already done with training, so I wasn't interested in that so much. So that's when we quit hanging out. And then after he was done with training and stuff, I think he trained, he went and did stuff. And I didn't pay too much attention to what he was doing up there, but we would chat every once in a while. But he basically started doing stuff more in real life, training people in real life, spending less time online talking about it or just hanging out online, wasting his time. So we just had less and less opportunity to chat there for a while. And I believe he's just offline completely now. So I see him at SHOT Show occasionally. But anyway, back to 12. I figured, there was a couple of things if I'm going to drive across the whole fucking country I wanted to check out, and one of them was the Red Dawn stuff. So it was a different time of the year. It wasn't on the anniversary or nothing, but that was, I think, the first time I got a chance to see Las Vegas, New Mexico, and it's pretty awesome. Drove up the highway, and at that time I didn't realize what was north of there. So we just went up to Las Vegas and then experienced it. I'm trying to remember now how it worked. I think we stayed. How the hell did it work? We left. We were in the middle of the night in Albuquerque, so we must have got up there in the morning. I don't remember where we stayed over. Did we stay at a hotel in Las Vegas? I honestly don't remember anymore. It's been such a long time, but I remember we did we just drive around for the day? Could we have stayed in Albuquerque? I don't really remember. Anyway, Las Vegas is like an hour, 2 hours from Albuquerque. Whatever it was, we drove around up there and spent the day trying to look around, but we didn't know much other than it was filmed there, and recollections from just having seen the movie a bunch of times. So there's so much of the town, the downtown area, I guess, whatever you want to call that, like a couple of blocks there where at least Red Dawn was filmed, that is exactly the same, that it brings back memories of the different scenes or whatever. Obviously the giant painting, like what I got the cartoon of, the girl saying howdy. That's pretty obvious, those scenes or whatever. But then, like the scenes of where the building blows up, like that building isn't there anymore. They literally built that building and blew it up for the movie, so it never existed anyway. That is tough. You kind of know you're looking at that street, but you also don't, because there's that big building missing. Anyway, so there's parts of it that are obvious and parts of it that are not so obvious. The drugstore is obvious because of the shape of the drugstore and everything, and the, what do you call, like that catwalk or whatever it's got. But it's a bank now, and I don't think I've ever been there when it's open. So I don't think I've ever even had the opportunity to walk inside, even if I could. But anyway, you can look through the windows, or you used to be able to look through the windows. And because its sign is in the wrong place, it's familiar, but it's kind of different. And that's how the whole town is. But the thing is, on that trip, I didn't even know all the other places. So anyway, that was the first time I went there, and that would have been in 2012. And we probably got some video, and I doubt I took much pictures. I just wasn't taking a lot of pictures back then. So again, however it worked out, we were there for maybe hours. So I don't remember where we hung out at night. There's no way we drove there all the way from Tucson. So I remember hanging out at night. I just don't remember how we slept, if we went to a hotel or not. Kind of remember in a hotel. That was near the Tulsa, so I don't remember anymore. Sometimes we would just stop on the side of the road and just sleep because we were cheap. Anyhow, so we were only there for barely hours, and then booked, and we're on the way to other places on that trip. So that was my first experience there. Then with Bob in 16, I think, was the next time I had a chance to get up there. Quite a few years later, had the cop car still, and Bob had his truck with his big camper. And or was that 15? It would have been 15. I don't remember. It was Bob's first year, I think, and I think Bob was heading out of here. And on his way back to Canada or whatever, we decided to go hit a gun show, and the gun show didn't exist, so we ended up going to a couple of museums in New Mexico and then headed up. And that was the point, was to go to the Red Dawn place. So on that trip, I don't remember the circumstances anymore, but I don't remember being in a big hurry. So we were, I think maybe because of the gun show, we're probably trying to sell stuff at the gun show. And because there was no gun show, we had like 2 days that we didn't expect to have. So we kind of moseyed north, and I don't think Bob was in a big hurry to leave. And I was still driving the cop car, I think. I was definitely still driving the cop car. So anyway, we ended up, long story short, we go to this place. I don't think it exists anymore. It was called Tina's, and it was an indoor shooting range and gun shop in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we just barely went in there, and we're chatting with her, and she had these 2 big ass dogs or 3 big ass dogs. And sometimes when there's a dog around, I'll play with that dog. So anyway, I was playing with these dogs, and Bob was talking to her, chatting her up probably. And I don't know what happened, but I think somehow we said something like, well, we're leaving. We're going to go try to find these, where we're now. I think we said, we're leaving. We're going to Las Vegas, New Mexico to check out the Red Dawn stuff. And she was like, Tina was like, Red Dawn? Have you ever been to the Rocks? We're like, what the fuck? So she says, and we didn't even know about this, but she tells us the directions, like the detailed directions on how to get to the rock where what's her face squirts the grapefruit on the other dude at the end. So we're like, what? So she tells us exactly how to get there, and we're in no big hurry, as I mentioned. So we're like, yes, we're going to these rocks. So I had the cop car, and Bob had his giant trailer, like this huge giant trailer behind this pretty big Dodge truck. So looked like a pretty legitimate situation going on, cop car carrying, being the escort to this big ass trailer. Now it's all old and shitty. Everything was old and shitty, the cop car, Bob's truck, and the camper. But from a distance, it looked like a pretty legit operation going on. So we're heading down this little tiny road in the middle of New Mexico, and we're told that, you don't want to hang out with the locals. They're very locals only. They don't want people around there. There's a whole bunch of hippies that go up there, and they don't like them. So the real locals only shouldn't stop and hang out. They don't like that. Nobody's welcoming up there. So anyway, we head out, and we get to where we think it's going to be. And I had never been there before, and we're driving in separate cars or whatever. And anyway, it was pretty awesome. We get to this just part where you could kind of tell the road was going to drop down and go down a hill or something. And you couldn't really see where it came back up the hill, but we weren't in a very, what's the word, very, it was just a flat area. So it was interesting how the ground just kind of left, and it was kind of peculiar or whatever. But anyway, main thing was there was a cop, like roadblock in the road, like one cop car kind of stopped, kitty corner, like in the middle of both lanes. And he's standing there. So I pull up, and he didn't even say shit. I just barely slowed down, and I didn't even have a chance to get the window down. I'm driving in a cop car, and he just waves me through. So I'm like, all right, there's not, they're doing something, but it obviously has nothing to do with me. Oh, I think what I was a little concerned is there was all these signs everywhere that said something like, can't be more than 2 tons, or like 2-ton road, or like, weight limit 2 tons or something. And I'm trying to do the math, like how much does a fucking cop car even weigh? I know they're heavy. So then I'm driving, and I see Bob stop at the cop, and I'm thinking, oh, damn it. Like his van is his camper is too heavy or whatever. I don't know if there's a bridge coming or what. But then Bob gets through, and this is pretty big scale. Like I'm trying to say that there was enough room here for me to pass the cop, be going down the hill, and see in my rearview mirror Bob stop, and then get waved through, and then Bob starts going, and then I quit looking in my rearview mirror and start looking forward again, and I'm still going downhill. So like we're going down a pretty long hill. It's not super steep. It's just a long downhill. And as soon as I kind of get my bearings again, like, okay, Bob isn't getting stopped by that roadblock, and I got through the roadblock, and I didn't care. I didn't even know why there's this roadblock. And there's nothing else going on. This is just an empty street in the middle of nowhere. I look up back at the road again, and Tina had told us, like, you'll know when you get to the Red Dawn Rock because the Red Dawn Rock is right there. And I look up, and I'm just getting my bearings, and there's the Red Dawn Rock. What the fuck? So I basically stop, and you can tell they filmed it where they filmed it because there's a giant parking lot across the street. So I pull into this giant parking lot, and I'm looking at the Red Dawn Rock. I didn't even pay attention that the parking lot's full of cops and other stuff and RVs and like SWAT vans and shit, all kinds of commotion. There's all kinds of shit going on. And then Bob pulls in right behind me, and we just pull in sort of between the road and all this commotion. And nobody gave a shit, and we didn't give a shit. And I just started getting all my shit together. and grabbed the dog, and then Bob sort of followed me, and we just went over across the street and hung out by that rock. We got some pictures, and we were hanging out and shit. And then at some point, we figured out that there was something going on. Like there was some reason why all these cops and stuff. So it turns out they were filming a commercial, and every once in a while, this truck would go flying by, chased by another cop or a cop car. And it was, I don't remember, it was like Dodge or Chevy or something. And maybe it was a Mustang. I don't remember. Some kind of vehicle was being chased by a cop car through this area. And this area is pristine. It's amazing, right? It's freaking scenic New Mexico or whatever. So obviously they're filming it here because it's awesome. So if you ever see a car commercial where a cop is chasing somebody past the Red Dawn rocks, look real hard, because me and Bob are sitting at the bottom of Red Dawn rocks, because we would basically, every time they'd film, we would just sit down and they would go film or whatever. But I think they just figured because he was being escorted by a cop car, they just let us in. But they pretty much had this whole like area road blocked off so that they could film this commercial, we figured out. And then, like I say, we were just hanging out there for a while, taking pictures and doing some video and shit, because this was, so I'm still doing videos at some point, to some extent for the tour and stuff, and taking a bunch of pictures. And yeah, so that was my experience there with the Red Dawn Rocks. That was pretty fun. And then I'd been back there, I think, at least one time, and there was no commotion. So that was just a unique thing at the time to have all that commotion or whatever. Anyway, so then we got back to Tina's and then went back, or continued on, I should say, to our original destination, which was the town. And in that trip, we had more time. So I hung out there with Bob, and we went to all the different locations in town. We went back to the school. Haas and I had gone to the school too. And when Haas and I went to the school in 2012, the school where it starts, the whole thing starts. The only difference between the movie and the school in 2012 was that all the windows that got blown away with the PKM, or by the RP, yeah, it was a PKM. All of those were just boarded up. I guess they couldn't afford to fix the windows, so it was probably too hot. It was probably too hot to heat that school with windows in there, so they probably just boarded them up so they could have more insulation or what. But anyway, that was the only difference, is the school looked totally different because it's just a wall instead of being all those windows. But the football field, I guess, or baseball, I guess it's a football field, is exactly the same and stuff. So anyway, we went back in 15, and the school was all different. It was weird, and it had like signs, and you can only go in there. And I can't remember. I've been back there a few times now. I don't remember if it was with Bob or not, that basically the school's like got a giant fence around it now. And whatever time we were there, it was after school, I think, because it was like, or it was on a Saturday, but it was some sort of deal where, like, pick up your kids, you have to drive in this way, and then to exit, you have to drive out that way. Where back in the old days, there was just two entrances to the parking lot. Now it's one is an in and one's an out, and there's a fence, and if the fence isn't open or the gate's not open, you're not going in there. Well, it might have been the first time I was there, we were there, and I didn't go in there because I can't imagine. I don't remember anymore, but I think the first time it was closed. But I know some other time I visited it, and I said, fuck it, what are they going to do? And I went in there. I think it was with the van, so it must have been a different time I went back. And I just said, screw it, what are they going to do? And I went in there and drove through, and just to look and see what the stuff was like or whatever. And everything was different. Everything was more modern. They had redone the parking lots and the fields and stuff, so there's no point in going to the school at all. It's except for being physically where it was filmed. It doesn't look the same anymore at all. So anyway, then with Bob, though, we figured out we went back to the school. We went to the gas station. So at some point, the kids all leave and they go to what the hell is his name? I can't think of his name. To what's his face? His dad's gas station, though, and that didn't ever exist. They just built that for this movie, put the fake pumps in and stuff just at this intersection. So it took a little figuring out, but we found that intersection, And that was pretty fun. That was actually before we had all left, before Bob and I had left. We'd all gone online in a live chat like this. And with Smeggy and a bunch of people, we used Google Earth, just zoomed around on Google Earth until we could line everything up right, and figured out from still images of this movie and then things from Google Earth, like which intersection it was and where it was. And we went out there and figured out, lined it all up. So that means we seen the place where they load up on their way out of town. And then pretty much after they leave there, they encounter a roadblock, and then they have to go off and they get shot at, and the helicopter kills the roadblock, and they got to pee in the radiator. Like, we went over where that was, which is just a stretch of road, but at least we can say we've seen it. And so we got to see a bunch of that. I think Bob and I went a little bit further, actually not intentionally. We went further because we didn't know where we were, and got to see not so much stuff from the movie, but we went to places where the movie was, I don't know, I guess you could say filmed at or whatever, like different areas from the movie. And then, like I said, I don't know, since a couple of times then, trying to think how many times, whenever I can find an excuse to do it, I'll end up going through Las Vegas, New Mexico now, to discover more and more of the places. So Bob and I went through it, and then we went to Colorado and figured out that there's a gunsmithing school. There's two of them in Colorado, but I knew of one, and it was right there in Trinidad, Colorado, which is just like a minute over the border. So I went with Bob to there and checked it out, and it's kind of neat. It's like an old, I don't know what to call it, like an old university building, like an old brick building. And anyway, so then I figured, okay, now there's another excuse to go to Red Dawn, because I can go do a review of that gunsmithing college or whatever. So I forget, maybe going to Wanamaker, or maybe coming back from a trip, checking out museums and stuff on the tour. But at some point I got back through the area and figured out that where Bob and I stayed in a Walmart, like we just stayed in a Walmart parking lot, slept in his camper. And that Walmart parking lot is like pretty much kitty corner to the movie theater. Like, the movie theater's right there. We just didn't know it. So I went back and found the movie theater, and went back and found the rocks where the dude stands there and says Wolverines, where the ambush to the firing line, that was all filmed. That was pretty fun. Again, had to find that and then go film it. Wait, had to find it from screenshots of the film, and then go find it. It wasn't real easy, but it was fun to find. And then from there, I think went across to where that gas station is and did a live chat with Yankee or Matt or somebody. Did a live show that night. So I did a live show from there again. I think I've done a live show from the train station before, like where at the end where they have a big fight at the train station. That's just a parking lot. So I'm pretty sure we've done a live show from there before. And then a time after that, I went back to the rocks out there, because it turns out that there's the scene where she comes up with the bicycle and has her stuff stolen in the basket, and then they throw it in the tank, and then they run after her. Or no, then the tank blows up and then they run after her. We went to where that was filmed. So that was pretty freaking awesome too. So yeah, every time I go in there, I find, well, so far, knock on wood, I find new places that it's filmed at. There's Bob out there. So now I'll go back and look at the thing. Nobody's been jumping in. I've been dropping links, but I got to listen to me drink. I already don't like this. It's been fun talking about Red Dawn, but there's too much talking. I'm not even sick. I was having to talk to Matt for a couple of shows there, or a couple of hours there, and I feel like I'm sick just after listening to him sound so sick talking. I just rewatched Red Dawn a couple months ago. I don't know. I'm probably going to watch it just because I haven't watched it in a while. Good evening. Good evening. I don't know what's going on with that. I barely started the show right on time, though. We were in there talking off air, so let's just chat. Just saying, hey, I guess. I just got the 6-inch Air 15 gong from Clover. Right on. I've never met Jennifer Gray, no. She calls me a lot, but she's never, like, in LA when I'm there. Right on. That was in his Patreon chat that he does on Mondays, for Patrons only. All right, I'm yawning, so I muted for that. All right, so hopefully everybody has a good week there. Got to pick up the MNP 380 Easy. Let's see. Did meet some nice ladies there. Are you talking about in Roswell? No, not in Roswell. In Las Vegas. I kind of think it would be cool to live in Las Vegas. However, I think I've only been there when it's cold. I don't think I've been there obviously haven't been there through the winter before. I don't know if they get a lot of snow. They might not get a lot of snow. Like being cold only, it's not that big a deal, I wouldn't think. Being cold underneath a shit ton of snow where it's wet and cold, that would be worse, right? Like if it's just dry and cold, it wouldn't be too bad there. Anyway, it seems like kind of an interesting spot. So I was sitting there blabbing about it. Well, I guess the only part I really missed besides talking about Red Dawn was that is it like half an hour maybe north of Red Dawn is the Whittington Center, which is the largest shooting range, period, that we got in this country at least. Of course, it'll only last for another couple of months until they get rid of the NRA, and then it'll be probably given to Bloomberg, and he'll make it into some sort of non-gun range. But anyway, that's pretty neat to visit. There's a museum there. One of the 3 NRA museums is there. It's not huge, but it's a thing to see in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. And I don't know. I've only ever been there 3 or 4 times and drove around. I haven't been there to like go shooting, or better yet, go there with a bunch of friends and camp, or better yet, go there with a bunch of friends at one of the many like condo options they have, or I don't think they have a hotel, but they've got like condos that you can have your own, place. It's like getting a bed and breakfast or whatever, like where you get your own kitchen, I guess, not really a bed and breakfast, but where you rent the house. It's a furnished place where you get dishes and stuff, but you bring your own food and you cook it, kind of thing. Like that kind of thing would be pretty cool to like hang out on the giant NRA range. 300,000 acres. I forget how big. It's pretty damn big. Anyway, that's right next to Red Dawn. There's Red Dawn, then there's that, because that's the only other town. And then there's Colorado. And then as soon as you get into Colorado, all you got to do is go up this hill and then kind of back down, halfway down the hill. And you're at this town that I was talking about where the Gunsmithing School is. Then you keep going north. You're at Dragon Man. Keep going north, and you're in Denver. So Colorado's only got 3 places. And I don't even think the one isn't considered one of the places. We just consider a place that's got a gunsmithing school. All right, well, so I'm yawning, and barbecue's not saying nothing. Oh shit, now I'm calling you bacon. So I'm looking at him like a big piece of bacon. Must be hungry.
That's all right.
Let's see. Saw the Red Dawn 3 times when it came out. I'm trying to remember how many times we've seen it. I couldn't have been more ripe for Red Dawn when it came out. I really, 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 really liked the movie, but I wasn't really, 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 really rich. So I'm trying to remember. There were times that was back in the day where you could go to the movies and go to a movie and then basically just book out of it, go to the bathroom, do whatever. I don't think they really cared. Depending on where you went, they didn't really care that much. I guess it was just different strategies for different places. But anyway, go to one movie sometime in the morning and then just stay there all day and watch as many movies as you wanted. So it's possible that I've seen it more than one time. But on the other hand, there was like girls and things. So we didn't just do that only, like those other things we were doing. So I'm trying to remember anymore. In 84, to remember back then. I know that I've liked it much more since, because it's one of the movies that's existed on VHS, and it's just, once it came out, we've always had it. Like Star Wars is kind of a different movie to me. Star Wars came out, and when it came out, there was no such thing as having a movie. Like the only thing you ever did is go see a movie. Like the best you could ever hope for is that they might show it on TV, maybe, and then you'd only ever see it on TV. That was it. So Red Dawn was one of those kind of movies by the 80s that if you've seen it and you liked it, you knew you were going to be able to go rent it. So I can't even count how many times I've seen it, because I know that whenever we rented it for the first time, we all copied it and then just had that movie forever. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody else old enough to remember when it came out. And then
it came out like 5 years before I was born.
So you probably don't remember.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've gotten to see it a few times over the years, but as far as getting to sneak into theaters and watch it or something like that, I don't even think I was itch my daddy's pants yet.
Depending on how far along you are cooking, sometimes you can watch movies out of your mom's belly button, but you got to remember back that far too. That's always tough.
It's like a periscope.
Mm-hmm. Like looking through a doorknob or through a door keyhole.
Yep.
All right. So what happened here? Clover does some kind of thing where he's a what do you call it? Well, I must be getting tired. He's a shill for the steel targets. He's a steel target shill, and he does some kind of video where he makes it look like it's not just a commercial for a steel target. He does some kind of video, wraps some video around the steel target commercial.
Something like that.
Some kind of get rich quick scheme you got to buy into. It's like a pyramid scheme. If you bring 4 friends in, then you get a steel target. Is that how that happened?
I think so. I'm not 100%. I just got sucked in when he said lawn chair, and I was like, oh, cool. I like lawn chairs. And then I showed up, and he's like, oh, I'm giving away stuff. And then, like you said, it turns into a commercial for these steel targets and these paper targets and stuff. And then magically I won. I was like, hot damn.
Cool. From what I understand, those will come straight from the source, so you don't even have to worry about a bunch of bullets on it or whatever. Yeah. 3 gun shops today. All found was an early 1900s Fulton double-barrel shotgun. Huh. Oh, are you doing that thing where you're trying to buy guns for Matt? Sorry, you're trying to buy guns for Matt, never enough ammo? That's the scam, right? He's going to be like, hey, let's see who can buy guns for $300. And then once you all buy them, he's going to have you watch a video, right? And you're all going to be watching it, and there's going to be a point in there where the colors are going to go funny and it's going to get wiggly. And then you're just going to all go to your FFLs and ship them to him. It's a scam.
So, Patriot, is that 10 gauge you were telling me about?
No, it says 12 gauge.
Oh, did it say 12 gauge? I remember him and I were talking last week, and he had mentioned a double barrel 10 gauge that he had stumbled upon.
Oh, that's probably pretty pricey. I don't see those very often.
Yeah, I don't think I asked him what the price was or anything, although I did tell him if he wasn't going to snatch it up to maybe send me the information for that, because, well, I love double barrels, and finding a double barrel 12 or double barrel 10 gauge, that's pretty rare.
So it turns out that Clover doesn't even do these things live anymore. He has somebody else record it for him, and then he sets it up on some kind of a robot schedule. So he can't even be bothered to do his own shows anymore. Probably why he doesn't hang out in any of these live chats.
Oh, gosh. Now probably I feel like
Patreon money.
I say it's that FUD live chat.
Well, he's making all that FUD money.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was all set to buy 2 firearms today, and the guy wouldn't sell them to me because I didn't have 3 witnesses to see me fill out the 4473.
What?
That's what Patriot says. So is that some sort of a deal that being blind to fill out paperwork, you either have to have 3 witnesses or have someone fill it out for you with, or two to fill it out plus yourself? Interesting. So
It's supposed to be if somebody has to fill it out for you, you have to sign it and they have to sign it. Also, if it's supposed to be if they had to read it to you and you still filled everything out, then they're still supposed to sign it. But because I go through this at my local FFL also, where he'll want me to have 2 witnesses, but it seems like a lot of the FFLs get confused when the ATF says that they need 2 signatures. They just need the signature of the person that filled it out for you, and then your signature. It's kind of goofy, but I always just take in 2 people when I go to that gun shop.
yeah, that's
But the fact that
probably
he's
one
asking
of
for
the
3
things that
witnesses,
don't happen very often, right? So they don't get it enough to be familiar with it, so they go on the side of caution and make it annoying.
yep. But the fact that the guy wanted 3 witnesses, that's just absurd.
Wheeled and well armed is saying Philmont is 50,000 square miles. Damn, I never went to Philmont. We talked about it, and we always went other places instead of Philmont. Guns and or no gear report. They go to or they've gone to Philmont. That's about as much as I've seen, but I never. I guess we drive right past it. It is right there somewhere, but I've never. Don't have anybody in Scouts anything anymore, so I don't have that much interest in seeing it. I don't know about the full movie, but I watched Jennifer Grey about 6 times when it first came up. I don't know. She's the best part of that movie. You were 23 when it came out? Holy crap. He's way older than us. Promotes gear websites on Launch Pop. Well, then it's good. And you should always listen to anybody who's a gear website shill is probably pretty smart. Pretty worth listening to.
Yeah, because he gives away some patches.
He's saying totally separate double barrel. The 10 gauge is local.
Ah, gotcha.
Back when I deer hunted, the ex's dad hunted with a double barrel 10 gauge. That thing had a kick with slugs in it. Yeah, I never shot him really, except for one time we were hanging out with that Iraqi veteran 8888. He was filming a Halloween video, and at the time he had like a 10 gauge. That was his thing. I don't know if that's, I'm sure that's not a thing anymore, but at the time that was his like Gary Glock thing that Yankee has. So they were like, hey, you want to shoot that? I'm like, I guess. So yeah, it was quite a big kick compared to really any other kind of shotgun. But
was it single trigger or double trigger?
Oh, I couldn't remember. It was in 2020.
Gotcha.
I shot it once or something. I only really shot it because, you know, I'd done this whole trip to talk to people, and pretty much, I mean, everybody who was, you know, getting to be as big as me, because I was bigger than everybody back then. But everybody who was like on the move or whatever, or had a big channel, quote unquote, was like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm busy. So our Iraqi veteran was like the only one that actually followed through and met up with us as we drove around. So we were trying to do something. So we had him. I shot the thing so that then they had him and Chad and why can't I think of Ray's name? Ray sign it for us, like the marker or whatever. So we'd have like the thing for videos or what. So anyway, because a 10 gauge is kind of big, you shoot it and it wraps, it's huge. So it's like, oh, okay, now we got like this big ass thing we can write on. If you expecting it was chopping down trees. So it's like you could pick a sapling basically and go shoot at it and it would knock the tree over.
Yep. I've actually dual wielded 12 gauge double barrels before, and I was fortunate enough that both of those had the dual triggers on them, which you can pull both triggers at once and fire both barrels at the same time. So I got to fire all 4 barrels of a 12 gauge at once. That was pretty fun.
I had 2 guys with me, but the rest of the store was empty. Otherwise, I'd come home with 2 nice firearms. Dang. 4 hours away. Holy moly.
Yeah,
that's really lame. Although I guess I could understand where somebody's like, hey, I'm not from here, and I've got my friends who you don't know. We all say it's cool. Let me do some unusual shit real quick with your livelihood. It's no big deal. I guess I can understand somebody to be apprehensive, but on the other hand, a no patriot. It's not like he's coming in looking like some kind of crazy, unless he's changed quite a bit. He quit shaving whenever I met him, I guess, and you quit cutting your fingernails, that kind of shit. Quit bathing. Come in with 2 friends that never had done any of those things. Then it might be tougher to explain why you want to.
But the thing is, an FFL should know the law and what they're expected to do. To require somebody to have 3 witnesses, I could understand if they wanted a second witness just to cover their own ass or something, but to say that you need to have 3 because you have a disability and you couldn't fill out the paperwork yourself, that just seems excessive. And I realize you can say it's their livelihood and things like that, but if the ATF is saying, hey, we only require 2 signatures, and that's the person that fills out the paperwork and the person that is the actual buyer of the firearm, then like I said, adding 2 more people onto that is just absurd to me.
Yeah, it's just dumb. You saying it's a franchise, so yeah, I can imagine. A lot of times on chains or whatever, or like that, when they're just doing the cookie cutter thing, they're just going to hire whoever. Tell them, here's your job description. They're not necessarily like interested or passionate about doing it.
Yeah. Well, like I told you, I worked for a sporting goods store doing that. And I bet you before I got to get behind the counter and start showing guns and giving people their 4473s and all that, I probably had to watch 15, maybe 20 hours of training videos that they had, just going over everything from straw purchases to things to look out for straw purchases and stuff like that. And in this case, if somebody is unable to fill out the paperwork themselves, that the person that fills it out needs to sign it and things like that. And if it's a big chain, they should definitely have the training.
Well, for all kinds of reasons, I would think they would have something, right? Like a video that you'd watch as an employee. So then that way there's consistency and they can have you sign it and they can say, no, you were caught. Like, we taught you that and you decided to be mean to that customer or say that when we told you shouldn't or whatever. You know what I mean? For like the liability or what?
Yep. I'm saying that's, one of the other things is, like those videos that I was watching, they're like, so if you encounter a straw purchase or believe that you're dealing with one, here's how you should choose your wording, and here's how you should break the news to them. And, it was very all thought out on how they wanted things to go down.
So now Patriots is saying, I actually pulled out a book and started thumbing through it to make sure he did it right. I was going to say, even if, they don't know, there's numbers that they can call. That might be a little bit difficult now, I suppose, but there's normally like some kind of number. They can just call Nix or whatever and be like, hey, I have a question. Or can you ask them? But if it isn't them, specifically, there's some operator somewhere where you can call in. But there's going to also be FAQs. But that's almost somebody who's either coming up with their own. Now, they might have their own policy. You can create whatever policy you want on top of whatever is required by law. Well, to some extent, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, if it's their own policy, then that's their deal then, and there's nothing you can do about it. And in this case, it cost them the sale of 2 firearms. But I just think that's a little excessive. I mean, who's going to be able to come in with 3 separate witnesses for firearms purchase? I mean, like I said, my one local shop requires that I bring in 2 people, which isn't usually a big deal. I can just call up my parents or something. It's like, hey, I need to go get a gun today. And I mean, I've got to get a ride anyway. So I'm like, hey, can you guys, come pick me up? And then they're already there anyway. So it's not a huge deal. But if I had to find a third person to do that, good God, I'd never buy a gun again. I wouldn't be able to.
Now we're to where we're all armed to saying Eagle Scout, so I'm guessing he's talking about going to Philmont or what. I don't know what part of the country you're in, but like say for us, we knew about Philmont. They talk about it all the time, and it was one of those things where if you wanted to go to Philmont, you'd work for like all year or more maybe to go to Philmont, and people we knew that went there often return. Like it would be a thing. Their troop went to Philmont, and I think it would even get to the point where if your troop was going to Philmont, people might even join your troop, so because they knew that was their access to get to Philmont. Whereas, like I say, we would do other things. There was when I was a kid, there was also a thing in Florida, like a boat. You could go on this boat and do some kind of Sea Scout crap. I'm not trying to join the Navy or nothing. So that was like the 2 big things, though, that you could do that were sort of scoutish, I guess. I mean, there might have been others, but I think those were the 2 big ones. But like I say, we just didn't do it. So, and then I only barely knew a couple of troops that did it. But even when you went to Philmont, though, from what I understand, it's so big and varied, or what. Like some people hiked and some people did other stuff and other people did other things. So I know there was like extreme stuff you could do, or just like have a lot of fun type of stuff, from what I understand. But anyway, it was probably also a distance thing. Like if you're kind of close to here, I guess it's got to be a lot different if you can rent a bus and get here versus, I mean, I wouldn't even know how the kids from back home would do it. Like there's no way they went on a bus, so they must have got on an airplane. So, I mean, I had to add a ton of cost to go into it. But I don't know. Like I say, that was, I only knew about it from a long time ago, and I got no interest in going there so much now. But I'm also an Eagle, so I don't know. There might be an interesting chat to having a bunch of Eagles together at some point, figure out when we all got them and how, because you have to do stuff to get an Eagle. And even if it's just comparing the merit badges that you decided to get, because you have a certain amount that you have to get, and then everything else is up to you. So it's sometimes interesting to listen to people talk about which ones they decided to go for, because you can go for like a direction or a general idea of something, like let's say sports or citizenship. Like there's just different angles, different directions you could go, science or outdoors type of stuff, or camping or hiking. Like you could go in different directions, and some people went in a little bit of every direction. And then there's service projects, like bigger things that you have to do to accomplish to get to be an Eagle. And some people just have their parents do it. Some people phone it in, but other people really take that seriously. And the people that take it seriously, it's pretty interesting to talk to a bunch of people who are enthusiastic about what they did and what they accomplished and why. And hopefully that gets spreads, because the scouts is a nice system to encourage it, but anybody can go do a service project. And how cool would a world be if, because there's tons of people that do service projects. It's just that very rarely are they focused on, and I'm not aware of any organizations other than like civic organizations like Elks or Kiwanis or things like that do service projects for a living. There's not too many things that focus on service projects. So how cool would the world be if they focused on all the different service projects people are taking care of during situations like this instead of the conflicts and the strife? But anyway, normally you can find somebody else in the gun shop that's willing to help out. Like I said, everybody else was gone, so and they didn't work. Oh, like they have to be a non-employee. I never even known that. I guess there's been plenty of blind people that came into the store, but I guess none of them actually bought a gun in front of me. Or if they did, nobody made a big commotion. Is it like they have to have 2 signatures, or you can have 2 signatures if you're concerned?
Well, the thing, if you can't fill out the paperwork yourself, and somebody has to fill it out for you, then you're supposed to have a second signature. But that second signature is just supposed to be the person that filled out the paperwork for you, acknowledging that.
We've helped people, like old people, constantly can't fill out their paperwork, and you say everything to them, and then they write it in or they scribble it in there, and you say it to them and they scribble it in there, and you would just sign it with them.
Yep.
Or initial it, basically.
And that's where I think a lot of these shops get messed up, is they hear, they need 2 signatures, and they're not saying, all right, we got the signature of the purchaser and we've got the signature of the person who helped them with their paperwork, whether it was reading it to them or filling it out physically for them. They think that they need the purchaser a lot of times, then they need the person that filled it out or read it to them, and then a lot of these shops are wanting a third person to then sign for as like a witness, and then apparently in this case it sounds like where Patriot was, they wanted him to have yet another person to sign, so they would have had a total of 4 signatures on there when they only need 2, which again should just be the person buying the firearm and the person that helped them with the paperwork.
I would have rioted. You had 3 people. Seems like you could have rioted. Consider rioting next time.
Because most of the shops I go to, they just have me sign because I'm, the one buying the firearm, and then whoever helped me with the paperwork signs also, and we're good to go. But like the local shop that I like to go to the most, because he's got the best deals, and it's the one I talk about most on here. He actually wants me to have 2 people for signature, so we end up having 3 on there. And I'm sure I could get the information from the ATF and say, hey, this is how you actually got to do it. But it's not that big of an inconvenience for me, and I don't want to piss the guy off because, like I said, we've got a good business relationship. I get some decent deals from him when I pop in there, things like that. So it's not anything for me to get super upset over. But if it was a case like this where he's like, well, I need you to bring in 3 people now, that I would never be able to buy another gun from him if that was the case.
I'm saying we took a bus from Athens to Philmont, so I wonder how long that would take. Well, I'm guessing you charter a bus, not like get on a Greyhound or whatever. But in other words, they would just go straight there probably. And I'm guessing straight there, no like stay in a hotel on the way or nothing, like you just slept in the back of the bus while the guy tag team 2 drivers probably drove. Unless when we would go on trips multi-state, we'd go on multi-state trips. I don't know how the hell they got them, but somehow there would be vans. And then like ours, whoever, like if it was the parents or the older kids who were driving or going with us, like they drove the van. So we never had like some guy that was with the van, like a van driver. But if we were going to summer camp, that was different. We would get on a bus, like a school bus. I'm guessing the camp paid for. I don't know. But, I mean, I was a little kid. I didn't have any idea who was paying for it. But Like that was some bus driver who nobody knew. That was just somebody who came with the bus, I guess. And then, like our troop would have a couple of kids, another troop would have a couple of kids, another troop. So it'd be like a bus full of kids that some of us knew each other, but most of us were strangers, and we're all going to the same place. But that would be like a chartered bus, I guess. But that was a school bus, and that was only going, a couple hours away. That wasn't like across the country. So that had to be a whole nother adventure. I can't even imagine. That's got to be super cool, depending on how old you are. It would have been fun at any age, but if it would have been a different kind of fun when you're a little kid and a different kind of fun when you're older, teenager or whatever. So anyway, about it, that would be fun. And then got his Eagle in 82. I don't remember anymore. Mine would have been 88, I guess, something like that. So you're older than me, unless you're a little kid when you got yours. So there's different Eagles. There's paper Eagles, there's real Eagles. Paper Eagles can be little. Sometimes they're usually like have stage bombs or whatever, like people pushing them, older brothers that already did it and they're just faking everything. So some of them kids can get it like, boom, they're in scouts. I mean, there's some math you could do. Like some of these things you have to be in it for 6 months. Some of them you have to be, I don't think there's any there as long as a year, but there's no way to actually go through the ranks in a minute. It does take a certain amount of time to go through the ranks, but there's certainly every once in a while some little kid that's an Eagle. Like, I don't know how the hell they get so much ambition, but when you're a little kid, you got all the time in the world, so any kid could probably do it. It's just a matter of fitting it into all your other stuff you're going to do, and if you got nothing else to do, I guess it's possible. But I think most of those kids are getting pushed or they're faking it. So 82 though, I don't know, I was barely waking up to the world in 82, so that would have been a whole different film on too, I bet. Or like one of those camp shows from the 70s, or one of the movies about summer camp from the 70s. Our camps weren't anything like that. They were way more boring than that. The funniest I ever had, or the funnest I ever had, was going to Boy Scouts Hall of Fame. They had a whole obstacle course in the building. Where's the Boy Scouts Hall of Fame at? I wonder where Boy Scouts was formed at. I don't know if I know. I mean, I know the story of the formation of the Scouts, fine, but I'm saying I don't remember what state that was. For some reason, I want to say New York. But you didn't go to New York for the Hall of Fame. I guess I could go over here and look. But I'm not going to, because I don't really like Scouts anymore. I like what it offered to boys back in the day, and I think it's ruined now. I think it's gone. I don't even think it exists anymore. But I certainly don't like the direction they went in, so I'm not giving them any time of day or any additional shilling over here. But it is cool sometimes to talk to people about scouting, because it's got a good potential. And for 100 and however many years, it kicked the shit out of growing up a bunch of good kids. I don't know if it's even possible to get it back anymore. The girls would have to decide to make Girl Scouts again. I don't know if they're gonna. So anyway, what I've been working on is this for the 50 States project. It was driving me, it was like an itch that I wasn't scratching to not have the manufacturers in there. So why not just sit down for way too many hours and have a whole bunch of manufacturers in yet another database? Any idea how many databases exist with all the firearms manufacturers in them? I can't even imagine how many. There's probably a number, but you probably need a calculator or a computer to keep up with how many times this has been done. And I was thinking about the entire time I was doing it, how laborious and extra, just redundant this was, I guess. But in order to get it into my damn database and interact with all of my damn stuff, it needed to be done. So I don't know if I wasted time or not, but they're all in here. It is kind of interesting because I don't know about most of the people. There's 10 people potentially watching this, or let's see, let's count how many people we know around here. Human being, met him. Pretty sure human being. Human being, met him many times. I don't think I ever met TTP. Did we meet? And then Ozzy, I don't think I ever met Ozzy. Bob, many times. I don't think I ever met this guy, if that's a guy. It's hard to tell through the shield. face shield. Angelina, many times, met her many times. Erstwhile, pretty sure human. Sent me some robot parts, though. So, pretty sure it's human, though. Anyway, so even if those humans are out there, we got one, well, you're in here, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's potentially at least 3 robot lurkers out there. Oh no, pink. So 2 of them. We were talking about how aliens might look on Jupiter. I think Jupiter's the one with all the gaseous planet, right? And that's what I'm envisioning, the lurkers. Oh, there's barbecue. Or I mean, there's woods. So that's probably not a gaseous alien.
We need to find those 3 lurkers. Once we locate them, tell them to head straight to Michigan. That way Patriot can go get his guns.
Well, that's a good point. That will prove if they're human or not. Anyway, so as I was looking at this, once I got it all in the database, I haven't had a heck of a lot of time to look at it, but one of the fun things is once it's in your own database, I can start to display it however I want and filter it however I want and fiddle around with it. And having the manufacturers in here is kind of neat. Just looking through how Remington came out in 1816, and I just know a little bit about some of these companies from the playing cards. So whenever I did the project with the firearms inventors playing card deck, I needed to come up with 52 inventors. So I started to figure out which ones, some of them are obvious, right? Like Ruger or Uzi or something like that. But, and Remington was a pretty obvious one. But, figuring out the list. And then once I had the list of who I wanted to have included, I then needed to figure out what I could find out about them, because I did all this from scratch. I didn't really have any concept going into it. So I knew I wanted to have things like their dates of birth and where they lived and stuff like that, like some of their data. And so I had some information from like that project. That was years ago already, but going in and kind of doing a little bit of research on each of these different inventors, especially things like Remington, Colt, and Mossberg, people who their company and them are the same, one and the same. Some of these other things that are conglomerates and shit are totally different. Anyway, so I had some experience with some of this, but as I started to include the different manufacturers that are U.S. into the database or the list here, and again, mainly so that I can use them on the 50 states of 2A projects. So I can put these things all in the various correct places. It started to be interesting because something like Remington, we just heard about how it's being sold to some tribe, right? Like somebody's buying that. So it started out in 1816, and like I say, from the inventor project, I know that the story there is that Remington was just some kid, and he was like, "Hey, Dad, let me have a bunch of money so I can go buy a gun." And his dad was like, "No." So he's like, "All right, he just went around his property picking up nails, I guess, and then forged those nails into a piece of metal, and then drilled a hole in it and turned it into a gun. And then he went and shot a match and came in he didn't win, but he came in pretty good. And people were like, "Where'd you get that gun, kid?" He's like, "Oh, I made this in my backyard." So he left a shooting match as a company. He already had enough orders to be like, "Well, I'm going to build guns for a while." And then he was making guns and everything since. So I just happen to know that story from that, right? And everybody knows Colt's story. He was some kid doing all kinds of stuff. His dad said, "Why don't you go to the Navy?" And stuck him in the Navy. And on the Navy, he figured out how the Navy boats have that steering wheel. And he's like, "Oh, I should make a gun like that." Carved it out of wood, come home, turn it into metal, and then that's Colt, right? Smith & Wesson borrows that patent, Smith & Wesson waits for that patent to run out. So Colt comes along and makes that gun, and then the patent runs out, and then Smith & Wesson go, "Oh yeah, let's make that into, let's bore that cylinder through and make a bullet for that." And then right before that, Smith & Wesson make the volcanic. Winchester comes along and says, "Oh, you guys are going to go make a revolver? I'll fiddle with that lever action a little bit more." And then we got the lever action. So it just starts, kind of falling into place a little bit. So yeah, have been having some fun adding these companies in, and then I guess, I don't know how to explain it, like letting the information fall into place. So, I like I say, from doing research on some of these things from different angles in the past, it's sort of like zippering everything together. As I started to look at these company histories, you start to see where like Mossberg was some guy who lived in Europe and then he came over to this country and he worked for like this company and this company and this company and this company. He was like the head foreman for this company and this company. And then after he retires, I think this is the right one. After he retires, he's like, oh, let's just make a shotgun with my kids. It starts a whole other company up. And after having worked at like every other company. So there's a couple of dudes in here that I'm going to start having to add another layer called gunsmiths, like Dan Wesson. Everybody's heard of Dan Wesson. That is, obviously Smith and Wesson and Dan Wesson are the same guy and stuff, but that's an interesting one where Smith and Wesson is the two dudes. The one, who is it? I guess Smith says, all right, I'm done. I'm going to retire. So Wesson buys him out, continues on for a while. Eventually they sell the company. So Wesson says, well, I want to keep making guns and I already sold my company. So I'm going to come over here. I think that's how the story went. And then he starts making his own gun. And then his kid came along and started making guns, something like that. So yeah, it's super neat. Some of these, like Armalite was like a company, a corporation just said, is there money in guns? Let's make a division and see. And some of these I'm finding out are like, you get back from the end of the war and there's all this surplus ammo, but it's for shit. You can't hunt with it. So these guys are like, well, if we make projectiles, we can use 90% of that war ammo still. We just got to make a bullet that fits in the war guns and is a useful bullet for killing animals instead of wounding men. So anyway, it's just been neat to plug in all that stuff.
Was there anything that you ran into, G, that was surprised you?
No, because I hadn't had a chance to put it all together. I mean, I can't think of anything that was surprising other than some connections, I guess, that I never had put two and two together. And then I was like, oh, snap, that is that. The Western, is it Western Remington? Western Winchester. Some of these, like Winchester and Remington at this point, they start out as a company. Everybody knows Oliver Winchester was making shirts and then hung out with Smith and Wesson while they made the Volcanic in the Smith and Wesson lever action company. And then when that was like, it's like a 9mm bullet. Nobody wants it. Shitty, weak, shitty. So the company went out of business because it invested in it. Winchester's like, well, I'll buy all the remnants of that and make it out of 45 ACP, and then boom, it'll be a winner. And that's what he did. So, he's running around being Winchester for a while. And then, Henry, the guy who made the Volcanic and came up with the lever action and that shitty 9mm ammo, even though it was called something else, 44 or something. Or no, it wasn't Henry. Who the hell came up with the lever? Whoever came up with the lever and was hanging out with Smith, hung out with, or Winchester kind of hung out with him, made one gun. Like they made one gun and then everything else Browning made. Like they took the Volcanic, made one iteration of it, and it was still the Volcanic, right? So then they made one change. They made it centerfire ammo, which they invented, I think. So I'm not, they did one thing that was pretty big. They made centerfire ammo and a lever action to shoot it with that was decent, that was like a step up from the Volcanic, from what I understand. I mean, I'm definitely not an expert on this. But then they just hire Browning to do everything. Like basically the vice president of Winchester goes over and talks to Browning and says, hey, let's put your chocolate in our peanut butter and we're done. And then they just hung out like that for a while. And Browning made the designs and they built the gun, but they weren't doing nothing but building Browning's guns. So Winchester, the dude who was making shirts, he basically was making shirts, seen what's his name make a Volcanic, and went, oops, here, threw some more money on it. And then after that, as soon as he got the fire started, let Browning keep the fire going. So Winchester was in the game and he was definitely crucial and vital and shit, but it wasn't like he's an inventor like Browning. or he's not an inventor like, I don't know, some of these other guys are actually inventors that are constantly tinkering with designs and coming up with new shit. Winchester was more of like, I don't think he ever actually tinkered. He just hired a bunch of people to tinker. He just had the idea and what's the word, like interest in seeing it happen. So
yeah,
like
nothing wrong with being a capitalist.
What?
Nothing wrong with having the capital and being a capitalist and be like, hey, you're smart, go build things.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, it's a different story than like the guy who's working and tinkering and wants to make a better mousetrap. So what I'm saying is like Winchester, Remington, some of these, like as soon as the guy gets out of it or dies, like Winchester's the deal where the Winchester dies and then his kid takes over, he dies, and then it leaves the family, and the wife of the kid is the crazy lady who took all the money and built a crazy house in California. So at that point, I think is when Winchester just becomes a name. Like Winchester had, like a reputation and a whatever, but it's done being a company at that point. Now it gets bought by an ammo company, I guess. It's not in here, but anyway, it gets bought by Olin, which was, what was Olin originally? Western. So it's this one. So Winchester comes along and gets bought by Frank Olin, who starts out with Western cartridges. And then this is a whole nother crazy one. Like this guy, so basically he comes out and starts making ammo in 1886 when there's barely ammo, right? Like they just barely invented ammo in 1850. So in a couple of years later, he's making ammo. I forget why. So either some war needed ammo or just people needed ammo, period. But whatever, he came in, and I guess there had been other ammo companies. So they were like, hey, let's fuck with that guy and not let him buy powder and stuff, right? So he's like, oh, that's a tactic, huh? So he just starts buying his own companies. So he creates this like massive empire where he just owns, the stuff that he needs. He owns it from where it comes out of the ground or it gets however the raw material is, he like owns the whole process. So he buys Winchester and it just adds it to his collection. So, even starting back in the day, there's conglomerates starting. So there's that kind of thing. I think one of the other things that was interesting was there's at least one company in here that's company owned, like the STI. The STI was through two dudes. I don't know the story. So it was Tripp, and then he hangs out with a guy named Strayer. So now you got Strayer Tripp International, STI. All right, big deal. They were making guns or whatever. These are race guns, competition, 1911s and stuff. But then somewhere along here, they sell the company to the employees. And that just seems interesting to me, like an employee-owned company. And then now it changed its name or whatever. But that was kind of interesting. The other one is, which one was it? Can you hear that dog?
Yep.
Stepping out the lurkers.
It's telling you the robots are out there.
She's sleeping. She's dead asleep. She's not running. She's just lurking. But the thing is, in real life, she's never made that much noise. So I don't know what she's dreaming about where she's making noise. Like she's dreaming that she's a dog that barks, I guess. She's never barked. She's still sleeping. So whatever happened there, it was over. Which company was it? One of these companies, the guy creates it, and then he kicks the bucket, and his daughter takes over. And it's just, his daughter just owns this company, and it's a massive company. And I can't remember which one it is for the life of me. So that was interesting to me that it was like one of the bigger companies is owned by a chick. And most of its growth was done under the guy's daughter. And then the other one is, they don't even make a big deal about it, but I can't remember which one it is. I was going to say, is it Stag? No, Stag is the one. I didn't remember Stag getting busted for $50,000 for basically not having serial numbers on a bunch of guns. And I was like, well, that's lame. They were like, our dude who does serial numbers was on a long vacation and we didn't realize. So they were just making guns and putting them in a pile. It's just that, you know, the way the law is, once they're at this stage, they got to be serialized and then put in a book like within 24 hours. And if it isn't, blah, 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 it's a big deal. So they were stacking them, I guess, and just had a whole bunch of these guns. And the way it's reported, like this guy had 10,000 guns that he was just sitting around. He had like 200 machine guns that were unregistered. It's like, well, yeah, duh. If you like take one guy out of the mix, his job happens to be the guy that writes it down when he stamps these numbers on there. You know, it's just metal 15 minutes before he stamps the number on there. It's just metal 15 minutes after he stamps the metal on there or the number on there. It wasn't Kimber is an interesting story. I never really paid attention to Kimber. But now that I've been paying more attention to the gunsmithing schools, the names of the gunsmiths come up. So it's interesting to see that. And since I'm only doing this at like from skimming the surface of it all, I'm not going to be able to do enough of it justice. But eventually I do see some sort of a poster or some sort of a chart, because there are way too many interconnectivities here that I think are just neat and worth sniffing out just because I think they're interesting. Some of these gunsmiths, for example, that have been involved in multiple companies, and I don't know enough about all these guns. I'm no expert on the guns at all because there's just so many of them at this, you know, once you start thinking about all the models and everything. But there must be some kind of stories where if this guy was a gunsmith for these 3 companies and he got disgruntled and went over here and made his own gun, there's got to be something that ties all those guns together. Or at least there usually seems to be, you know, once you start looking at that kind of stuff. Springfield, that was interesting because I've never given a shit about Springfield. But their stories, you know, obviously long and I don't know, at least interesting because like I said, I never really paid attention to it. But that started with more than one time somebody taking the Springfield name and going with it. Which the hell company is it that was the daughter took over? Anyway, so yeah, I've been doing this, and then I also added another layer called firearms industry, and that is things like, I don't know if everybody's familiar with like Lipsies and RSR. Armchar Wholesale is one of them, CDNN, Bangers and Xanders. These are, I don't know what to call them, like wholesalers, I guess, is the way I think what they actually are. So they are the places where if you go to a gun shop and say, hey, I'm looking for, you know, not some weird, obscure one-off World War II gun or something, but if you just want like a Ruger gun that your gun shop doesn't have on the shelf right now, they can go to one of these kind of distributors. I guess that's another way to say them. And they'll look it up. Like they can go to, Davidson's doesn't have any storefronts. They just have a giant pile of guns in a warehouse somewhere. And, you know, again, these are things that you hear about them or you've either know about them or you've heard people refer to them, I guess. But having them in an order or in a database now so we can see in what order they existed. And eventually once I can, if it's worth going in here and doing it, once I can go in here and dink with the some of the stuff like keeping track of how big they are. Like I've been to Sportsman's. They say a 330,000 square foot warehouse. Like it's one of the bigger buildings I've ever been in. Like it was amazing. It was really, 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 really cool. They can't even, there's no way you have to use robots and stuff to even like get to the stuff on the shelves. Like it's multi-stories high. I don't know what it would be. Like a 4-story tall building inside of this building or something. Like it's, you know, the pallets and warehouse shelving and shit just is amazing. It's like the movie or something. And well, they're probably one of the bigger ones, but a lot of them brag about how big their place is. So anyway, it's going to be neat to be able to go in and just, I guess, what's the word? Interpret all this stuff or whatever. Once it starts to be, I don't know, in a system where we can compare them real easily. And like I say, I've just been adding them so that I can keep track of where they are. But the fact that I'm putting them in here, it's real easy to figure out to sort them by when they were too. So that's how they're sorted now, is by when they existed, most recent. So something like on this section, something like the just regular stores, J&G, Brownells, Sportsman's. These are all just stores that started up. Some guy had a store and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew, and now they're massive or whatever. But then other ones, I guess they technically were stores. It's just that they figured out real quick that I can be a store to an end user, especially back in the old days, in like the 40s or something. I can be a store with a front door on a street, and I can depend on who can walk into my front door, or I can just start selling to other sporting goods stores. So on this page is where you get to see like Lipsy's, and some of those stories are more like, we started out as a regular store, but then immediately just started wholesaling to other stores, just started building warehouse space. And I think that was probably a factor of how things were done back in the day. There was no computers, there were no custom shipping, ship on demand, none of that shit. So you probably needed warehouses back in the day. And there's probably some relationship with like how guns are made when they know that they can sell 30,000 of the Model 5s, and they're going to be able to sell 5,000 of the Model 5Ss. That tells them, okay, well, we'll tool up for 1 month for the S's, and the rest of the year for the other model. Any of that kind of stuff. I don't know how they did that shit back in the day. So anyway, I figure that might be interesting to dig into. And the thing is, there's people that own these companies or run these companies. There's people that work with these companies, like say gun shops. Anybody who does ordering for a gun shop probably worked with all these companies. But then there's these guys that are factory reps or whatever they're called, and they'll work for sometimes one of these distributors, but sometimes one of the manufacturers. And I don't know if I don't even bother putting them in here, but there's another layer that are like industry. Well, maybe it's more like a conglomerate. But anyway, some of the reps will rep, Colt and Trijicon and some kind of ammo. And I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to the combinations that they come up with, unless, like I say, it's a conglomerate and they just have one rep out there representing all their own products. But I never really paid attention. But anyway, there's those guys. And just from talking to those guys, they are some of the more interesting people to talk to at a gun shop are the guys that do nothing. Guys and girls, because often they're females. But there's these people that just go between gun shops, and let's say they represent Colt or Glock or Remington or something. They're basically there to tell the shop, hey, what do you need to know? Or do you have any questions on any products? Or do you need any signs? They're just there as like a facilitator to the brand or to the products or something. And because of their job, because they don't, they're nobody's enemy. They're not trying to sell nothing. The companies exist. You don't need to sell a Glock. You just need to obtain a Glock so that you can sell it. They're not trying to go around being salesmen. They're just helping out and experiencing customer feedback and shit. They're pretty interesting dudes and chicks. They're pretty interesting people. So that would be an interesting conversations to have, are those people. Because the other thing is that those people, from my experience, and I'm guessing my experience is the same as everybody because they travel nationally, they jump around. There's only a certain amount of people that want that kind of job. And then there's only certain companies that value that, or I don't know, what's the word? They match up, or that, they find the right group or the right mix or the right fit, I guess. So often I'll see the same guy come into the gun shop and he'll be representing so-and-so, but then next time I see him, he's totally representing different people, or maybe 2 of the 5 people are changed, or 1. Anyway, so you see the same people often, but they're not always doing the same gig. So anyway, that would be interesting because there's a lot of those people. I know probably 3 or 4 people off the top of my head that are like that. You do too. There's people on YouTube that are that person, but then they go on YouTube and act like they're just some person who's a random person, but they're totally, at that level of industry involvement or whatever. Anyway, they usually have a pretty intimate knowledge of the product and what's going on at shops. And that's why I think it'd be neat to talk to them, because rarely are they gun shop nerds. They go to gun shops constantly, but they never pause to think about the gun shops they go to. And that would be interesting just to hear their stories. And then, of course, to find out which are the best gun shops. Anyway, so I'm talking a lot again. 2 people in here. You know that Angelina stole your Care Bear idea and made a patch out of it. She's profiting over there, probably making a bunch of money.
The Woodsy Bear is available. AlanAnchor.com.
What's the story there?
Oh, she was just fucking around one day and wanted to see if she could. It was like a proof of concept, so she based the bear on me.
Is that gonna be like a series of Care Bears?
Yeah, you're thinking like a Care Bear, like I don't give a fuck bear, or like
I want to see like a Mr. Knives Care Bear version of Mr. Knives Care Bear version.
Knives out in the chat. I told him, tried to get him to come in here and say hi to us, but he's apparently waiting for his ride. Which
G ride.
Yeah, but that patch is pretty funny. It's got Woodsy on the axe and everything.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm yawning, so I muted, but I'm not even counting. Definitely not the first yawn. So we're an hour and a half in. You guys are in here. We could keep chatting, or we keep digging in. I'm looking at another week of 107-degree temps all week. I'm on a pretty good pace for getting up. Oh, today I got up a little early. I got up for match chat. I haven't been in there for a while. But for me, this is sort of like 11 a.m. maybe, like just before noon. So if we quit now, I got all kinds of work done. If we keep going, I can still get work done. But it's up to you guys. Like I say, I'm not really trying to prove nothing with this show. Just trying to keep a conversation going. And in this case, just chat a little bit about either Red Dawn, because it happened today in 1984, or...
How old were you in 1984, G?
Yeah, I don't remember. Some age.
Because I would have been 13. I remember getting the people asking me if I was 13 or not when I was trying to buy a ticket to it.
Oh, okay.
As a 13-year-old, do you have ID?
Oh, I see. Because of the whole 13 thing? That's true.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm not a little dude, so I never had to worry about stuff like that. So I'm sure that I looked older, and I don't think we would ever, especially I hung out with another dude that was, I think, maybe taller than me. So I'm almost positive we didn't get carded for shit ever. That kind of thing. Because I don't remember ever getting carded for a movie. And that
Well,
only
I remember the kid asking me, "Are you a 13?" I said yes, and that was it.
Well, that's the thing. That only happened like while we were in the middle of growing up. So that was sort of a new thing to ask your age when you're going to see a movie. So it wasn't like an established thing. And like you say, none of us had anything. The best we would have is maybe a library card or something, and that wouldn't have our age on it. But because that was another thing, and you would have never asked a kid. I guess you could go up to a kid back in the day and say, "How old are you?" Nobody would have cared. But you couldn't have shook down a kid and been like, "You got to prove to me how old you are." People wouldn't have dealt with that. You would have definitely gone to jail or something for that, right? Like trying to force a kid to tell you how old it was. Like, I don't think people would have gone out.
I remember the ticket guy asking me.
No, but I mean, making it sort of
And he told me the ticket.
Anyway, so looks like Knives is leaving, so we drove him out of here. Take it easy. And I think it would be interesting to see a whole Care Bear line of Gun Channel's characters. Does she have to do it? No. Is it moral to do it? Yes. Is it ethical to do it? Yes.
So we're going to guilt her into it?
No, I'm just saying it would be a moral, ethical thing to do. So is it necessary? No. Does she have to? Of course not. Is it moral and ethical? Yes.
Yeah, I think she should have to too. I agree.
I feel like I could probably go over to the calendar because there's other things I think technically that happened today. As I've been going through working on 50 states, I did add some stuff over here. If you go under firearms events, been adding some of the major yearly events. Not so much the dates like the calendar, even though it says the calendar, but more like the times of year that things happen, just for like generally, because I know a lot of times you'll have a conversation and when is the Wanamaker show or when was NRA show again? So just kind of mentioned a bunch of that. And then again, first comparisons, I guess, a little bit of scale. So like the SAR show that we talk about here in Arizona is about 3,000 tables. The Wanamaker show is 4,000 tables. SHOT Show, 1,600 tables. Exhibitors. I mean, tables is tough because some of them are the size of a little village, I guess. Square footage is another thing I could put on here. 600,000 square feet at SHOT Show, 480,000 square feet at Wanamaker. So physically, not that big a difference, especially since SHOT Show is all over the place. I don't know where they're getting the 600,000 number, but potentially that's like 8 different rooms if they're counting it all. So anyway, and then a big difference, 1,600 people filling up 600,000 square feet versus 4,000 people. It's much smaller tables basically. So anyway, I put some of that kind of info in here as I've been, again, desperately looking for things for some of these states that are empty. That's really what's causing this whole thing. There's like a couple of states that don't care about guns and don't do nothing. So I having to keep digging into more and more, grasping at more and more straws, trying to find something to put that's pro-gun into some of these states. All right, so let's see. We had Harlan Carter being born back in 1913, and it's the birthday of the Department of Defense. Isn't that fun? So the Department of Defense, I guess, started in 1789. Okay. Harlan is the guy that went with Neil Knox and created the NRA ILA back in 1977 as a reaction to the NRA deciding that they were going to move from Virginia to New Mexico, to that place we were talking about earlier, actually, that Raton, New Mexico, Whittington Center or whatever it's called. So they were going to say, hey, let's become a hunting organization and leave all these politics to somebody else. And Harlan and Knox said, why don't we start a thing and be pro-gun? We start a legislative portion of the NRA and care about the Second Amendment and that kind of thing, and the rights that need to be protected from infringing on it. And they did the whole October Revolt back in 77, where I think it was like at noon or something, all the members that were interested in showing their solidarity or their allegiance to the concept of the NRA going political instead of staying hunting, like they all put on an orange hunting cap or something at the same time at like noon. And that show was enough for the management or whatever you want to call, like the leadership, the board of the NRA, to acknowledge that the membership was not in favor of their move. So they went in and did whatever and created the ILA. Anyway, Harlan is the guy that helped with all that. And his deal is that he was born on like El Paso? No, not El Paso. Somewhere down in Texas like that. I don't think I put any of that in here. But if you look this guy up, he was born somewhere like on a border town in Texas. And when he was like 13, he got in a fight and killed a kid. So he's like 13-year-old and he killed a kid. And then he said something like something horrible or something when he did it. So he's not a good dude. Then he grew up and was in the Border Patrol. And I guess was comfortable with the reputation of having killed a kid already when he already, before being in the Border Patrol. So he was not a pleasant dude from what I understand. So some of our people that we stand on the shoulders of are not necessarily awesome. So I don't want to suggest, because I don't know shit. Again, I'm looking at everything here like from afar and with a quick glance. I'm trying to accumulate a lot of information together. So feel free to do your own research and don't assume that I'm promoting everybody we talk about. Because we spend some time talking about them. These are people that fit in the puzzle. These are pieces that fit in the puzzle. But every once in a while, a piece smells like dog poop. And you're not going to go around licking every piece. Let's put it that way. So, Harlan. Otherwise, the other thing is Red Dawn. And best movie ever made today. Well, it was made 1984, but it was released today. I don't remember giving a shit about it at the time. I'll put it that way. Like, it was definitely an interesting movie and came out and everything. But this came out in the same... You remember what kind of movies were coming out in 1984?
I'm going to say Commando.
It might have.
Here.
But, oh, come on, YouTube. Let me go to Google, because look at how the difference is here. This is stupid old DuckDuckGo, right? If I go to Google, I'm going to type in the exact same thing. 1984 movies. Google search. Bloop. And it gives me a nice little thingy here. Look at that. Boom. Don't have to do nothing. Just boom. Right off the bat, got a nice little thingy. And that's exactly what I wanted, right? Like every movie from 1984. Not, I don't know, you want to buy stuff off Amazon? Here, you want to go to Wikipedia? No, because that's all it ever gives me is Wikipedia. It might as well just be called the Wikipedia search engine. So we're going to close that one, even though it's probably better than Google. And let's just go be searched by or tracked by Google. So let's look at movies from 1984. Neverending Story, it's too old for that. Gremlins was actually a pretty freaking good movie. 1984. You remember Gremlins?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. 1984 was an awesome movie. I remember reading that book, and holy moly, like that was an amazing movie. And the fact that it came out in 1984 was just a mind blowing. It was awesome, right? And it was a good movie. 16 Candles, come on. I actually know a guy who's in the bathroom of that movie. Karate Kid, not my flavor, but right, that's the kind of movies that were coming out. Footloose, again, not my flavor, but that's what was coming out. Dune, Dune. I never really watched Once Time in America. Police Academy, original Police Academy. Ghostbusters, are you understanding what I'm putting out there now? Nightmare on Elm Street, the original one. This is all the same year. You hear what I'm talking about? Nowadays, you're like, oh, I got one movie? Great. This is 1984, 1 year. Natural, nobody gives a shit, but old people really like that movie. Amadeus, people that were trying to get some would take their girlfriends to that movie. Beverly Hills Cop, not my thing, but obviously a lot of people like that guy. Red Dawn, of course, best movie ever made. Terminator, 1984, the best year ever. Nobody cares about that movie. Break It to Electric Boogaloo. I've definitely seen that movie like 4 times in the movie theater. I definitely remember seeing that movie a lot of times. We were boogieing the shit out of the loo back in the day. These little fucking kids don't even understand the kind of memories they're bringing from Electric Boogaloo when it really came out, 1984.
Carry cardboard everywhere.
Against All Odds, nobody cares. Splash, people watch that movie. Last Starfighter, not my thing.
Last Starfighter was great.
I was older than that, but yeah, a lot of kids like that. Top Secret, if you're racist, those people love those guys' movies. Romancing the Stone, which was like a ripoff of what's its face?
Indiana Jones,
but people like what's his name? He was super popular, and the chick was super popular. So people watch this movie even though it's a fake ripoff of that other movie. Buckaroo Banzai, like if you haven't watched this movie, you're an idiot. Sorry, but you're an idiot if you haven't already watched that movie. So some people like Chud, whatever. 2010. So 2000 was kind of a big deal. 2010 was happening, right? And that was a big deal, even though all this other stuff was happening.
They tried to warn us about the robot.
Night of the effing Comet. So, right? Ooh, shit. And I'm not even done to the end of the freaking list or nothing. Night of the Comet, The Burning Bed was only interesting because Farrah Fawcett never did nothing anymore, and Farrah Fawcett was in a movie. And you could watch this on TV. This wasn't like a real movie. They're just putting all kinds of stuff in here. I remember this being a big deal. Do you remember that being a big deal?
What, The Burning Bed? Oh, yeah.
Because it was the first time you got to see Farrah Fawcett in forever.
Well, but it was also the rise up like, fuck that, I'm going to fucking kill this bastard who was being a dick.
Oh, I guess so. I just thought of it as being able to see Farrah Fawcett again because she hadn't done anything for Spinal Tap, I didn't really care at the time. Indiana Jones, I didn't realize it was in the same year as Romancing the Stone. But obviously, Indiana Jones, this is all 1984. Do you realize how important 1984 was with movies? Beach Street, I seen it. Purple Rain, come on. Purple Rain, come on. I shouldn't click on them because when I click on them, I have to go all the way through. This is all 1984 for crying out loud. I'm not even done. This is halfway through or something. Repo Man, I didn't watch it at the time, but
That soundtrack we listened to on repeat.
Yeah,
For that
that's a
movie.
good movie. It's a good movie too. Cannonball Run 2 was not good, but there's vans in it. And there's a Corvette in it, I think. Bachelor Party was pretty funny. Wasn't that great, but it was all right. Starman was not that good, but it was a movie. Stop Making Sense was pretty good. I didn't see it in the movie theater or nothing, but I've seen it plenty of times on VHS. Woman in Red was dumb. Sheena was all right. Dumb, though. Streets of Fire was pretty awesome. Did you like Streets of Fire?
Yeah, it was good.
Conan came out in 1984.
Bam.
And what's her face from Family, but everybody liked that girl. So yeah, 1984 was an amazing year, and the best movie of all of them, boom, Red Dawn. Telling it like it is, making a generation of hardened, strong, worthwhile, moral, real individuals. And unfortunately, we have to exist in generations that came after us of weaklings and fakes, shells, but we'll dud. We'll go strong enough for them. Yeah, see, Terminator, Highlander. I don't think Highlander. Highlander was before this, I think.
Yeah, Highlander can't be 1984, is it?
You know what I missed? What I didn't see in there either is a James Bond. So I guess somehow they missed a James Bond. Oh no, it says 1986. Holy shit, it was 2 years after. I would have thought before, because it seems kind of hokey with its special effects, kind of. But trying to think backwards, I guess it's not that big of a difference. It says in 1985. Oh, that's when it takes place. That was a pretty good movie too, though. I'd say. I don't know. So why don't we do a top 10 of 1984s? Anyone?
Amadeus.
Top-
What?
What now? Are you saying how my opinion now, or my opinion in 1984?
I'm going to set up a Google vote thing right now, and we've got at least, well, it says there's 10 people watching. So what does that mean? 4 humans? So we're going to have a poll because the knives left. But however many humans are in here, we'll do a quick poll. So let me go to new and forms. That's how to do it. I had to go figure out how to do it. And we'll just throw a couple of these 1984 movies in here, and then we'll see what kind of votes we get on them. So we'll type in best movie of 1984. Right, so obviously it's Red Dawn, but we'll put in others also. Red Dawn.
Conan was pretty good, man.
Wait, what?
Conan was pretty good. I get that Red Dawn's more important, but Conan in 1984 was definitely my favorite movie of that year.
Okay, here's how I do it. Short answer, I need multiple choice. Oh, I could do check boxes, and then people could vote for more than one. And then it's still going to vote them up, right? I could say like pick 3 or something. Let's see, can it let me shuffle? No. So let me go to that check boxes, and then I'll say pick 3. That work or what? All right, and then get it that way. All right, so yeah, so there'll be some nominations then, and we'll get, I don't know, a bunch of them in here. We're saying Conan. Why isn't it? Yes, it is. Oh, I gotta type it in here. Okay. The others? The Riddle of the Steel. wonder why they stick Conan. Oh, you know what? Conan the Destroyer is the second Conan, isn't it? It's not
Correct.
even the first one. So this was the first one in the 70s, or was the first one in the?
I'm gonna say like 80, maybe.
Okay. So I don't remember liking Conan put too much production into the movies. So I remember Conan 2 is when I was already getting sick of dragons and shit.
James Earl Jones shooting snakes at him. Come on, man.
Yeah, like I got over, what do you call it? Like oversaturated with dragons and shit. I really, that was going on for a long time. That stuff.
I hear you. Yeah, I was a D&D geek too. Yeah, I get it.
Anybody other suggestions?
Well, I'm
I
gonna throw out
remember
Amadeus.
You got to throw Ghostbusters on there, or Angelina's gonna get mad at you.
Is he even on here? What did you say, barbecue?
I said Amadeus.
For real?
Yeah, I love that movie.
I have no idea how to spell it. Where was it at on here?
I have no idea where it was,
There
but if you need to know how to spell it, it's Amadeus.
Yeah, but that would imply I'm going to type it. That's why I only had to click fingers.
I actually have Falco's an original pressing of Amadeus on vinyl. I was so happy when I got it. Went home, threw it on the record player, and it was warped.
Oh, Dune is a good one to put on there.
Yeah, Doom for sure.
It was one of those, like, what do you call it? Like measuring sticks. If people were willing to watch Dune, then you knew they were a nerd.
Can we put Gremlins in there?
I already did.
Oh, Gremlins was 84?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I didn't realize that.
Terminator in there already?
Huh?
Did you put Terminator in there already?
Of course.
You're gonna get him copyrighted, man.
I already got it for doing the Red Dawn theme at the beginning. This one's already screwed. The worst thing that'll happen is they'll knock you off. I don't think they'll knock me off for 5 minutes of knock me Amadeus. Tron? Was Tron 84? I didn't see that in here.
It's too little for me to see what you're writing. Did you put in? You put in Indiana Jones already, right?
Oh no, that's probably true. We gotta put that in there.
It's Temple
I
of
was
Doom.
going to ask about that one.
I'm gonna shout out for my show, The Last Starfighter. I love that movie. You play
Okay.
and you get to play with spacemen and stuff. Because I was 13.
I was driving around. I didn't care shit about a little kid with me anywhere. But yeah,
I'm going to
definitely.
go with a ding dong route again and say bachelor party.
I spell bachelor.
BACHELOR.
Did that spell it right or? I don't know. Who cares? Oh, 2010. I'm gonna put Buckaroo in there though. What the fuck?
Toxic Avenger.
Why are you trying to fucking French kiss me? Son of a bitch. I must have some kind of shit in my mouth because that fly really, really, really wanted to go in my mouth. I feel like I just got fly raped.
You just found a new way to spread the corona.
Oh
Let the
shit!
fly fly in your mouth, and then boom, it goes flies in somebody else's mouth. They got the rona.
I'm glad it didn't get in here. But yeah, this fly went crazy mad when like couldn't get in my mouth the first time. I tried like 8 times to get in my freaking face. I mean,
Matt sent that clear from Texas. I bet.
wait, what now?
Said I bet Matt sent that fly clear from Texas.
Oh. Yeah. Ain't that clever. Oh, Purple Rain. I should probably put that on here.
Oh, I forgot you mentioned that one.
Oh, I know what I can do. I'll right click, open link in new tab. I win, Google. I think you're so good. I'm going to put Repo Man on here.
Still listening to that soundtrack.
Should I put Streets of Fire and Sheena? I don't think too many people are going to vote those. Top Secret, people might vote that. Especially if you get 3 votes. Because that was What's His Face's only movie that year.
Looking back at
Not remember that. Oh, Beverly Hills, I should probably put that on there.
Oh yeah. Looking back at this list, if Amadeus even gets the vote, I'd be really surprised.
It just depends. My mom would vote for it if she was voting. Like if I put Footloose on there, like nobody would vote for it probably. But if it was like a bunch of girls, they would vote for it.
Come on, Kevin Bacon. Come on.
Let's race our lawnmowers at each other.
You did call me bacon earlier there, G. Did you have this already on your mind?
What? No, I had there's a whole nother reason for it. Prince and that. Oh, Honda. I was thinking other Honda. Never-ending Story. I think people would probably vote for that from the nostalgia. I'll put 16 Candles on here. Yeah, so in that movie, the one dude asks the chick for her underpants, and then he goes into the bathroom and holds them up. Something like that, right? And they show a bunch of kids in the bathroom that are like, hey. And I knew a kid that went in to be, I don't know the kid that well, but I knew he'd tell that story every time you give him a chance to tell it. Whatever you call it, like extra, I guess. And then they stuck him in there, and sure enough, like you watch that scene, you put it on pause or whatever. There's that dude standing there. He was my friend's wife, my friend's sister's boyfriend, so I barely know him. He was way older than us.
He was one of the kids that paid to see the underpants.
Yeah, in the bathroom, like that crowd of kids. I don't think I could remember his name. I'd probably remember it if I just had to say it real quick or something. I don't think I can remember his sister's name anymore. Did I already have Karate Kid on here? I think I did. There's definitely people that would vote for that. All right, and then I'm gonna put these in, and then we'll see where we're at. I don't think Google cares how many I put in here. But I'm adding Night of the Comet. That's one of my favorite movies ever.
Nicolas Cage, right? Really young?
No, Night of the Comet is some girl that no one ever seen before and her sister that no one ever seen before. And then some guy who's a truck driver shows up, and he kind of looked like Eric Estrada, but he wasn't. And nobody ever heard anybody in Night of the Comet. I don't know where Night of the Comet even came from. It was the best movie out of nowhere. But that's the one where the comet comes at night and everybody turns into powder. And then just the 2 girls, the cheerleader and her sister.
Oh, and there's nobody else alive, yeah.
Yeah, except for like some creeps at a store and then the weird scientists. But then I just spoiled it for everybody. So I don't think I already have Breaking 2. That was the shit though. It was neon and everything.
I think you kind of have to put that one on there with the whole boogaloo thing that's happening right now.
Well, that's bothers me. These kids don't even give a shit. It would be like, what's a movie that these kids care so much about? Like the movie Avatar or something? Like that's probably like, all these kids that are Antifa or whatever. Like what's a movie that they really like a lot? What would be like their anthem? Like their Amadeus?
They wouldn't like
Super
anything.
Size Me.
Ironically.
Yeah, Super Size Me or some movie like that they're where somebody gets upset, right? Like
Some Michael Moore movie.
Yeah, like see, if you would like use the name of a Michael Moore movie in vain, it would be like that. Like if you went up to him and said, "A Michael Moore movie is fake," and have that kind of emotional reaction.
Well, didn't he just do one recently that kind of went against the whole left wing ideology, and they just like ate him alive?
Oh, I don't know.
I remember he did something like that.
If he did, I'd imagine it's a stunt, desperate for attention or money, both.
I'll have to look into it and get back to you on it just to be sure. But I think it was just like a year ago or so, from what I understand. It didn't fall in with their social justice warrior crap, and they, like I said, they just ate him alive for it. Might have been on like greenhouse gases or something, maybe.
So we got a bunch of them: Red Dawn, Conan the Destroyer, Terminator, Ghostbusters, Amadeus, Gremlins, Dune, Indiana Jones, Last Starfighter, Bachelor Party, Adventures of Bunker Banzai, Purple Rain, Top Secret, Night of the Comet, Repo Man, Breakin' 2, Beverly Hills Cop, Police Academy, Neverending Story, 16 Candles, Karate Kid. So I'm going to put 1984 on there because I think that's a kind of a sci-fi-ish type of thing people like. I think it's because so many of us had to read it in school anyway, and then we got to see it as a movie. Like that was just like a payoff, I guess, right? A curiosity type of payoff. See how they did it.
Yeah, that's definitely a book. If you read it in high school, you didn't really get it until you were much, much older.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly. But you knew that you were supposed to get it. So I'm sure I watched the movie to like, feel like I got it more or whatever.
I read it last week.
Once Upon a Time in America, is that worth putting on there? I know our parents watched that. I know watched it. Got Police Academy on there. Nightmare on Elm Street. Should probably add that.
So if we only get to vote for 3 of these, I can't even vote for Amadeus after hearing the list that you named off.
Oh, shit. Well, that's fine. Doesn't cost nothing to have it on there. The Natural. I'm going to just read off ones that I don't already have in there. I don't know what the fuck Nausicaa.
That's a great movie. I know you don't like sports, but it's a great movie if you like baseball.
Well, that's the thing. I know a lot of people like that dude. Plus, it's an actual movie, right? Like it's a good movie people like. So I don't know. I guess I could put it in.
Although they changed the ending, which was terrible, because in the book he strikes out.
I watched the one where if you build it, he'll come type of bullshit.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah, I didn't like sports then, and I didn't like sports watching it. So I seen it once, and I was like, yeah, that didn't change my opinion at all. I just kept going. Children of the Corn, Against All Odds. I barely remember that movie coming out. Splash. Certainly everybody's seen it. I don't know if anybody's seen it twice. You already got Last Starfighter.
You took a girl with you if you wanted to. You were trying to touch boobs or something.
Splash.
Yeah, Splash. Come on.
Well, it had John Candy in it, right? And on the side. So I think he's like the friend of the dude or something. Remember him? It had something funny because I did not like this dude, and I could take or leave her. And I know that Flash had something redeeming. Yeah, Friday the 13th, we got that one in there. It was the first. No, I got Nightmare on Elm Street. Was there also a Friday the 13th? I don't pay attention to those kind of movies, so they all blend together to me. But I knew I grabbed Nightmare on Elm Street. I saw that one in here. Chud. I know a lot of people like Chud a lot, so I'm going to put Chud in there. Even though, like you say, with top 3, I don't know. But I can make it top 5. Again, it doesn't cost us nothing. 5. And I don't think it's going to care if you pick 100 because I'm not telling it, am I?
Are you putting this up on Patreon for people to vote?
No, I'm just going to put the link out here as soon as we're done. And then I'll probably stick it on YouTube and I'll put it wherever so everybody can have a chance to vote on it.
Nice.
I don't think I can choose. I don't know what this means, so I don't know if it. I don't think it'll care. I mean, if it's wrong, I can fix it whenever we start it here. But so I guess the bounty, I remember that, but I don't think I know anybody that's seen it. 2010, there wasn't that many people that liked it, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway because we already have 1984. Has there ever been another year where there was 2 major movies that were just the names of years, or that were named a year? Spinal Tap. I should put that in there. There's definitely people that like that. Beat Street. I don't know anybody like that. Threads. I don't even know what that is. Falling in Love. Don't have any idea what that is. Cannonball. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody watch that really. Body Double. Oh, I remember that one. That one had that cool house, right? And the house looked like a flying saucer on the side of a hill in California. And then some kind of mystery type of thing. Some chick gets murdered or something. It was actually a pretty good movie. That one I've seen on cable a bunch of times. Well, I would be at risk of putting every movie on here if we kept going. So that's pretty much all of them. We're going to go with those, and let's see what I got to do over here. Do I just click send? Should I collect your email addresses? Yeah. And include it in an email form? No. Add collaborators? No. How about just give me the data link? Oh, are you kidding? They don't make... Yeah, short URL. So copy, and it should work. Everybody should be able to click on that link and use the thing. Let me know. And then I can go to responses, and we'll see if it's... We are now accepting responses. We'll see if we get any responses. Although, like I say, I bet you could probably pick all of them or 5 or something. I don't think it cares.
Gee, can you put the link in the side chat?
He did.
No, I'll put it on the other side chat. There's this one too.
Okay, I voted.
Thanks.
There you go. Did that just happen? I don't know if I had to refresh. We'll find out if any more come in real time. So yes, a lot of people have already been asking, is this better than the way Matt does his weak ass brackets? Yes, this is a better way to do it. Is this more fun and interactive and enriching? Yes. But whatever. I don't want you to hate Matt because of the way he does it the old-fashioned way. Just tolerate him. I guess I have to refresh.
If Matt's brackets were like Red Dawn, he would be the communists that are invading.
Well,
you only get to pick what he chooses.
He could be like, what's his name? Toby? What's that guy's name? I can't think of anybody's name. Robert is the one guy. And Doug? Oh, what's the other guy's name? Lucas. I guess I could just go to Mdiva. You know, the kid that ends up eating the communist bug. Daryl. Fucking Daryl. He's like the Daryl. Like, he's a friend of yours until he eats the communist bug and rats you out for the communists. Okay, now I got 2 votes for the Red Dawn. I don't think I have to refresh, but we'll see. So, I don't remember refreshing right then. Although somehow I have option 28 in there. Is there a way for me to remove option 28 so that you don't just keep voting for that? Can I reorganize them to influence the votes? Oh yeah, I totally can. Look at that. Pick 5. We got 3 responses at this point. What can I do with it? Looks like I can copy the chart. That's kind of cool. Did I have Beverly Hills Cop on here? I think we had that one. Yeah. Moscow on the Hudson. Ugh. Was that the tap dancing one?
No, that's Robin Williams comes from Russia.
Oh. Man, there was a bunch of like came from Russia stuff happening.
Yeah, we were supposed to like, he was a commie that came over, and he was like, it was all likable, and it was all sad.
Were you a fan of that show where there was two cousins, Belky and the other guy? I don't know what the show was, and it was horrible.
Perfect Strangers?
Yeah. Did you like that show?
Yeah, because I was like 13. There wasn't anything else on.
Oh, for me, that show was like nails on a chalkboard. I was like, oh my God, what they built this show for? It's horrible.
Yeah, but like back then, I didn't like the remote controlled me, and so I had to get up and go over to the TV and turn it. So
that was like I'm guessing like the end of cameras or something, like before video, when like they turned into like Xena and shit, like shows changed, It was like the end, so it was like the last of the
better one of those was Bosom Buddies, Tom Hanks and Rick Moranis.
Yeah, but that was like pure 70s, early 80s, like in the midst of it all. That other show was towards the end when those kind of shows were dying. Because the Bosom Buddies was like Three's Company. That was like back in the heyday of that stuff still, I think. Or maybe not the heyday, but at least there was no other options. Like I think what was killing those other shows, like towards the middle of the 80s and the 90s, especially the 90s, is you got video games, right? So nobody's going to watch a rerun of nothing when you got a video game to play. And then I was going to say VHS, like being able to record. So now you can record what shows you want and watch them when you feel like it over and over and over, or go to the store and rent a movie. Because I think that's what killed TV, and that's when they quit caring so much about shows. And then there's been, I don't want to say forever, there's been like waves, right? Where they're like, oh, let's put a lot of effort into our shows, or like, put some, some actual motivation behind it. And then people do put down that other shit and watch a show, right? But I think that's what was happening. So shows started like, they're just phoning it in. They're like, well, some people, like you say, like they're in a place where all there is television, and they got to have something on. So here's the show they're getting. But it wasn't like, I'm trying to think like MASH, when it was like, this is all there is. So all of everybody's attention, all the money, everything was being put on the shows. Like it was more like, we need shows, let's fill some time. But let's see, so then we got just 4 responses. That's all human beings. So even though it says there's 10 human beings, we now know there's only 4 human beings that have actual fingers to click. Was it Clint, Echo, Woods, and, well, Pink has an excuse because he's at work. Mr. Knives, there was no chocolate incentive, so we can't expect Knives to do that. Wheeled must have left. He's not out there. Or he was trying to shoot at it and it broke his keyboard. Bob, he doesn't even know how this works. He doesn't understand what we're talking about here. Angelina's gone a long time ago. Ozzy is howling at the moon. It wasn't a full moon. It was full moon 2 days ago. So he's probably out there howling at the quarter of a moon that's out there. Now, I was doing something on Instagram the other day, and somebody claims that Mars or the moon will hover Mars. Is that true? That moon will obscure Mars?
No, there's something they're supposed to appear side by side in the night sky, I think on like August 24th or something. But with the way they'll look, it'll look like there's 2 moons in the sky because Mars is supposed to appear so large. But I really haven't found anything to confirm that yet.
That is not the case. That's totally not true. It is definitely bright, and it looks suspicious because it's sitting there right next to the moon. So it looks like obviously there's some sort of something landed on the moon, but or hanging out next to the moon. But the moon's only like, well, yesterday, the other day, it was like half. So you got that like dark half of the moon that we know is actually moon, but you know what I mean? Like it just looks like black. So when Mars went, well, it looks like the moon is going to go right over the top of Mars. So at some point, the dark side of the moon, the black side that we can't see, I guess, is going to be covering it. So it'll look like, in slow motion or whatever, in time lapse, is the moon will come up and then Mars will disappear. Moon will just drive along next to it, but Mars will just disappear into the black side, basically. At least that's what it looked like was about to happen. And then I said something about it, and somebody had said something on Instagram like that's going to happen. And according to this, which was written in February this year, the moon to pass before Mars, so occlude Mars, 5 times this year. So I don't know where the hell that part of it went, but that's what it said in the synopsis summary of this thing. The moon will cover up Mars 5 times in 2020. It says, but February is the only time it'll be accessible to viewers in South or Central America. Dang it. So I guess what that's saying is that even though it looks like it's going to go next to it, it ain't actually going to cover it. So I guess I should quit looking up. Anyway, I might overlooked that while you all were watching. So we're not getting any more votes. Pink says he took the survey. Well, that doesn't make any sense. If you two took the survey and Pink took the survey, then we only got one other person. So that means all the rest of these people are fake. It's like a game of Clue. Whodunit. A real whodunit, except it's more of a who's human. So that's another thing that's nice about doing a thing like this. It's a human check. So we know that there's 10 entities stealing this show, watching this show for nothing. And we know that only 4 humans or capable robots use the interface. So we know that there's 6 thieves. Although Garrett just said he's driving, so he's technically a human. And he paid $5. So even if he has a robot, at least he paid me $5 to do whatever weird robot shit's happening. So I guess what I'll do is I'll take this short link and I will link it around to my various places that I do stuff on. And we'll see, maybe come back here in a day or so and see this much better version of a nerd bracket. I'll show it to Matt and he'll steal it off of me. But
so then don't show it to Matt.
Well, I was gonna say that's probably who's all in here right now. Just lurking is like Matt and Honda, Roro, all them. Just like we got to steal this next time. Stop doing brackets.
Like NEA spies, he probably does have that.
So what you do is you don't tell them and see if all of a sudden it pops up that's their idea.
Fire starter.
Great movie.
Loose was Advancing the Stone. Anybody call Ice Pirates? I don't think was Ice Pirates in the list. I didn't see it in the list. Although if it was an 84 movie, I'll throw it in there. I know people had seen it and like it. I think we got all the rest of those though. Did I put Romancing the Stone in here? No, I'll put Romancing the Stone in there. Wait, am I clicking the right one? Did we put Firestarter? I didn't put Firestarter either.
No, I don't think you did.
Did we have Footloose? I think I didn't put Footloose, but you're saying you would vote for Footloose if I put it in? Put it in there. Even though we don't go for putting Footloose in this town.
You don't like dancing?
Well, not dancing, but putting in Footloose. That's the thing that we're against in this town. So it's a little specific and unique, but it's similar.
You're just against Kevin Bacon in general then?
Only when you try to put Kevin Bacon into a list of 1984 movies. Otherwise, I'm fine with it. Spies Like Us came out in 1985. Well, we could do a whole other one for one of these other years, but that's what it was like back in the day. So like little punks running around, little kids running around today, these days or whatever. Like, yeah, I got my whatever superhero movie of the week or whatever it's called, blah 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 universe or whatever. You know, like hey, let's go film another movie in Europe because it's cheaper, and then make it all on green screen anyway. So back in the day, look at how many. Is it possible to keep track of how many are in here? I don't think you have to scroll down like 3 times to read them all. That's how many movies came out in just 1 year. Although it was a pretty awesome slice of a year there. But there's other things like Rambo that's not on this list. Other science fiction movies.
When did Lethal Weapon come out?
It's here. Right in here, isn't it? Oh no, I'm thinking of Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know. That's not one of my favorite movies. I don't like that. But at this time frame, like right around here, maybe after. I'm thinking after, but I don't think as late as '87. I think it came out. I don't remember. Toxic Avenger. Did that come out in '84?
It did.
I don't know too many people had seen it, but then again, I do know people that went out of their way to see it, like myself. Like we'd see that at the, or wait for that, that kind of stuff from Tromex to come out at the VHS plays.
Oh, that's
March
one.
6, 1987 for Lethal Weapon. March 6, 1987 was the release date for Lethal Weapon.
All right, well, they're up to 6 responses, so all of that lurk shaming caused a bunch of people to come up out of the Discord and click on a real thing that actually is recorded in light of day, so be careful. Red Dawn has certainly taken the lead with 5 out of 6 put in there. I guess there's no way to click on it more than once, so nobody can click on Red Dawn like for 2 out of their 3 choices or something. Ghostbusters, though, coming up 3rd. So that's a bunch of sucking up to free patches or whatever, obviously. Although it was pretty good. Terminator, Purple Rain, and Police Academy are tie-in for 3rd. I would not have thought of that. I'm yawning like 100 times off air here. I keep muting to do it. So what else this could do is, number one, it could, what's that thing called? Like eliminate or whatever. Like it can give you whatever. You could do this for each year, let's say, right? 1984, 1985, 1986. Then take the winners and make them fight in a separate poll, like the 80s, right? And then do the 80s versus the 90s and so on and so on. You could do all this for nothing in stupid Google, whatever this is called. Google Docs. So first you got to go to Google. I'm using the duck, so I got to go to Google. When you're in Google, what do they call this thing? A Brady Bunch box or a hamburger or pancakes? I don't know what they call these little boxes, menu boxes. Anyway, when you get in there, go to your drive. So whenever you're on Google, I think you probably got to be logged in because this is all stuff that they give you as part of an account. So I'm guessing you're going to be logged in. Look for those little squares, or on a Mac, who knows where they put them because they don't care about you. But on Windows, it's over here. And then when you get in there, click on Drive. And then when you're in Drive, I don't want to show you all my stuff, but you'll get a thing that says New, which I guess, can I show you this way maybe? Like it'll say New over here, and then scroll down under More. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. Click on New, though, and then go to Forms. And then once you're in Forms, it'll look like this. You fill out whatever kind of form you want. Boom, put it out there like this. Use it as a test to see who's a human being and who's a fake robot. So we know that out of the 10 people watching, 6 responses. And I didn't do this thing. So that means that only 3 of the 10 people watching here are probably robots. So you get a cool trivia accomplished. You get all kinds of audience interactivity. A lot of times, like you watched all of Matt's show today, you didn't get any interactivity. It was basically like, F all of you people. I don't even care that you're out there. This show, it's all about the conversation and the interactivity because we're adding that extra level on top now. Starman make the list? No. I only know old people that watch Starman. I don't know any young people that watched it. 1986 was another epic year. It was. That's Empire, right? Whatever year Empire came out was a pretty crazy year. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I don't know anything enough about movies to know how this all worked out, but I guess it's because they were all different. What's the word? Like,
Empire's 1980, right?
what?
Empire Strikes Back's 1980.
1980? Really? No.
Well, the first one's 77.
Oh, really? Huh,
Yeah.
I would have thought. So Empire happened. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't really care that much. But anyway, I think I was thinking about it as in terms of toys here, and I guess it doesn't necessarily line up anyway, because you might play with the toy 2 years after a movie is actually out. So I should probably think of other ways to try to relate these things, but that's all I can do because I didn't really. Well, I was going to say we didn't really get to choose movies, but that's not true. A lot of times they would say, "What movie do you want to watch?" They didn't always listen to you. But we did get to choose sometimes. But Starman, I only seen it on cable because I was never rented it. But I consider that a drama, even though there was technically science fiction in it. It was all about story and whatever. But was it in 94 or I mean 84? Put it on here. Because the other thing is just to show, or to remind or whatever, just to illustrate, just like how many movies came out in that 1 year. I guess it just happens. I don't have to click enter. Yeah, it's just on there.
When did like renting videos become popular? I'm thinking after 85, maybe.
That's what I was trying to think. Well, 85. I don't know. I was thinking about that a little bit.
In 89,
Blockbuster and stuff, like the big chains, happened way till when I was in Arizona. So before the big chains, there was just little mom and pop shops, and that would depend basically on the shop. Like some shops were into kung fu movies, they'd have a bunch of kung fu movies, and some shop would be into rom-coms, and they'd have a bunch of rom-coms. Another shop would be into sports, like they'd all be in their other things. So back in the day, you'd go to your, if you wanted to see a sci-fi movie, you'd go to this rental place, and if you wanted to watch something else, you'd find that kind of rental place. But I guess I'm trying to think. I know a great house, but I
I
don't
can
know what.
remember the ones that were before the big ones, like you're saying, the little ones, but they'd only have like maybe 100 movies, and it didn't take long to.
It kind of depended because you'd have like your pizza place that would have like 24 movies on a shelf,
Right.
but then you'd also have like a nerd place where they'd have like just way too many, and it would be crazy, maybe stuff from Sweden or Japan or something that was different. Or like there was a place that had it wasn't really a video place, I guess. It was more of like a karate place that had videos, but they had a whole bunch, like almost a store's worth of just karate, like kung fu, whatever.
Well, I remember those. Yeah, that's where I saw all the Zatoichi movies. Blind Swordsman.
No, I don't mean. I mean training, like class stuff. You would watch it and you'd learn a kata or whatever. Like they were instructional videos, and they were either like classes, like a whole shelf would be like learn kung fu or like learn black belt or something, and then like others would be like learn tai chi or something. So anyway, there was like a store that was just nothing but that. So anyway, I guess I would say kind of like record stores or something. not all record stores just sold every record. Like there was your punk shops and your country western shops, and you had to find the right record store to find the right record, the records you were looking for. So it's kind of like that with rentals, at least for the stuff that we were interested in. There wasn't really, I guess there was Japanese movie or cartoons, but if we were interested in TV shows or something, you'd go to one. And if you were interested in like what's new, because that's the other thing, if there was like, I don't know, whatever the new movie was, they might buy 10 or 6 or 5 or 100. I don't know. But, if you didn't go in there and reserve it, then you might have to wait 2 weeks just to see one of them, right? Like you'd be on a list or something, and they would call you and go, hey, that movie's in. You got a half an hour to come down here and get it, or else the next person on the list is getting it, right?
Well, that's the kind of why I brought it up. Like kids these days, I'm going to do my old man rant for a second. They have no idea. Like these movies in 1984, we had to go to the movie theater to see it. Or maybe you could see one of them in your local video store, maybe.
Well, no, in 84, we didn't have that yet. I don't know. Let's find out. But there was a point, whatever the year was,
right
before that point, there was no, I'm ever going to watch this movie again. You went to the movie theater and watched 8 times because that was, you thought that was it. You were never going to be able to watch that movie again.
Right.
But then as soon as VHS happened, well, okay, not as soon as, but like as soon as you could get video rentals of movies, then you didn't have to watch it in a movie theater at all if you didn't want to. You just know that in a couple of months you could watch it on VHS, but there was no reason to go watch a movie 3 times unless there was a reason to go watch it 3 times for sure, right? Because you knew you'd be able to watch it as many times as possible. But that's a whole nother thing. Like this definitely is a movie that you could watch on VHS as many times as you wanted, or on DVD as many times as you wanted. But when it came out, you didn't know that. So Empire for sure. And that was in 80. So nobody even had a concept of ever watching a movie. You'd never thought you'd ever see it again if you didn't watch it. And you've already had that happen already with Star Wars. So 80 for sure. So it had to be, I'm thinking after 84. But let's find out, when did VHS rental or get big? Let's see. The first professionally mounted video rental store was in 1977, so it had to be after that. By mid-1985, the United States had 15,000 video rental stores, and many record, grocery, and whatever also rented tapes. Because that's the thing. As soon as that was sort of a thing, that was just another way you could make a few bucks if you wanted to deal with your rentals, right? Like, so a drugstore would have rentals like that. A grocery store, for no reason, would just have rentals. They would always have like the dumb movies that, were like popular at the time, right? They didn't have like a huge selection. They would just have like the top 5 and ones that people wanted or something, or like the classics maybe.
Right.
I don't know. It's saying 88. The number of video stores was 25,000. So from 15 to 25 in 3 years. So what does it get up to? In the 80s was common for, I can definitely remember when you still had to rent VHSs, because you might have a VHS, but you would rent a better one, or you would rent a second one or something. Because I don't really remember ever having to just rent a one. Like people had them by the time there was stores. But maybe, I suppose, if you went on vacation or something broke and you couldn't just go buy one, you might rent one. And you didn't move it around ever. So if like you were going to do something, you would rent one and not unplug yours and move it, right? If you were going to do something at like a wedding or something, you needed one at a building, you would just go rent one. You wouldn't ever move your own.
Did you ever get hold, like you and your buddy get hold of 2 of them and then copy the movies that you rented?
Oh yeah, we were already different. Like I would settle for old garbage and like hack it. So we definitely had like, well, there was a time when you could get a VHS or a camcorder that was like 3 pieces. There was the part that was attached to the TV and you could leave that. And then you had this other thing that was like a purse, but it was a big giant contraption made, and that had the VHS tape in it. And it had a cord going out to the camera. And then you need all 3 of those things to actually play the thing back on a TV. And those were like the first garbagey ones that a couple of people had. So as soon as I could get one of them cheap, we were plugging that thing into the giant ones that grandpas would have. So yeah, we were already, as soon as I could get that stuff, we were hacking on it. So that would have had to be, well, that was still probably end of the 80s.
I looked it up. Blockbuster Video came out in 1985.
But the thing is, I don't remember seeing Blockbuster. It wasn't everywhere. It was only like in the West or something, I think, for a while. Like that wasn't everywhere right off the bat. Eventually, it was the only one. But, you know, if it came out in 85, it had to be 89, I guess, before it was everywhere.
Right.
But by then it was already different, because when they first started, not everybody had a VHS and not everything was on VHS. But fast forward like 3 years and everyone has multiple VHSs. People own a shit ton and they're renting brand new and obscure old, you know, so stores really had to have like the new, like 100% everything across the board new, or else they would never get any customers, right? Like if you went there, you'd better get the new one, or else why were you wasting your time? And then they had the other unobtainable objective of like having every single old thing ever. And I can remember there was enough option even here in Tucson. Like if there was, I don't know, something like a kung fu movie, and you know there might be 2 in a store or something, so you didn't expect them to have 100 copies of it or nothing. But if there was only 2 in the store and there was like a waiting list and it was going to be like a month before you saw this thing, see ya, I'm going to the next store. Like I'm not waiting around for a month to watch a video when there was options. And I can remember, you know, it was like it had to be a tough thing for stores. I can't even imagine. I was definitely just a dumb consumer during all this. Like I wasn't even thinking about it from the store's point of view, but it had to be a slippery slope of never making a profit. You could never do anything to win. You'd constantly have to buy new tapes no matter what, because they would get ruined and just fucked with, right? Because nobody cared about them. And then you could never win having the selection, right? Like no matter what selection you went with, it wasn't going to be enough for the appetites of all the people out there. Obviously, it was successful at some point because everybody did it. But yeah, and then it went to DVDs in the mail. I don't know how big of an influence that even had. And then that lasted for a minute and it was gone. And now nobody even thinks about any of this stuff. It wouldn't even be, you couldn't even sell people to do any of that work anymore, right? Like, there's no way somebody's going to go to a place just to watch a movie. Actually, go to a place twice, because you had to go there and then you had to go back and leave it again.
Yep.
I can remember the coolest shit ever when they finally let a hole in their window so you could go back in the middle of the night. Because I was a kid and I had a car back then, so I'd be like, oh, there's an excuse to go drive around at night. Like I'd go drop the video off. Oh fuck yeah, like that. Oh my goodness, that was a big deal. Like that wasn't immediate either. Like leaving a night drop, because people would, you know, leave a stink bomb in there or a smoke bomb or whatever horrible thing. Or I remember the first ones. The first ones were literally just a hole. They were idiots. Like you'd go there, if you went there, let's say in the morning, and went to open the thing, it would have all the videos from last night just sitting there. Like they were that, you know, it was just a long time ago. Like nobody thought about it.
50 of them right behind the door.
Yeah, like you could, well, no, not behind the door, like in this little thing. Like you could just open it and take them. Like if you were just the type to say, thank you, like you could just, you know, if you went there in the morning when everybody, like you say, had just been opening the thing and dropping them, like you could have just grabbed everybody's movies. It would have probably been like 7 of the same movie, right? Because whatever was new. But yeah, I'm just saying, like it was definitely low production, just getting it done back in the beginning days. But even then, again, I'm thinking of all the times when I think we'd spend, once it was, I guess, end of the 80s, we never really had a big Blockbuster thing. So it had to still be before Blockbuster got big. But you had the established video place. And I can remember like going to one and looking around and then like, nope. And it wasn't like you were looking for anything in specific. It's just you were looking for something you hadn't seen before or that, you know, struck a fancy or something. And then you'd go like drive somewhere else and then look around. Nope. And then you drive to like a third place, look around. Nope. Drive to like a fourth place. And then at that point, you're like, there's only one other place and I don't feel like driving anymore. So we're renting something here, right? But yeah, you're a dumb kid. You got more time than sense, I guess. Go spend time driving around. And then when Blockbuster happened, that was a whole different thing. Because now you had the aisles and aisles and everyone had everything all the time. So now it's just a matter of what I'm going to go watch again. Like, it was a horrible time, I think. Considering, we're looking at 84. Look how many new movies came out in 84. Now you fast forward to like 97 or something, or 95 maybe.
Yeah.
One movie or two movies came out. Like it just seemed like everything in the 90s slowed down when it's slow pace or fast, slow motion. Because it was Blockbuster and you could go in there and watch like every Kung Fu movie or every Jackie Chan movie. And that might take you 2 months or something, but if there's that many movies, but you could do it. With the one Blockbuster, you wouldn't have to go to 7 in town. And then that switched into where you would get the DVDs in the mail and leave them at Blockbuster. That seemed like it should have been a good idea. All right, well, so I guess it turned into a nerd chat for some reason, I guess because of Red Dawn. And we now have 7 responses, which is pretty good considering there's only the same 10 alleged humans watching. So I don't know, these don't go out to anywhere. So this would have had to have been people watching or sharing links. Red Dawn 5, Ghostbusters 4. Police Academy is going to win with 3 votes. Interesting. Although I probably watched Police Academy, I can't count. It was on cable in the days like this, 84, right? There was nothing else to do. You come home and do people even realize that back on HBO, it would be like Police Academy would end and then it would go HBO and then it would start again.
Yeah. It's play the same movie all night.
Yeah, for like all day, for like 4 days, right? And then we're kidding, but it would be that much. They would play the same movie all day and then maybe switch at like 3 in the afternoon and play some other movie like 7 times.
Some like mom movie or something.
Yeah, and then it would go back to playing like an action movie. But no, this was HBO, so it'd be like boobs or violence or boobs or violence, right? But I guess maybe a boring movie in between. But it was like 3 movies a day, and it wasn't like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It was like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. So and then the next day was like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. So it was like a big deal when a movie came out, and then 5 days later you memorized every freaking word of every movie because it was that or watch the news or the farm report or some bullshit. So you were gonna watch it. And what are you going to not turn on the television? Like, come on, you're going to have the television on. It's just that you're not going to sit there watching it. I mean, that's where I guess I also, as much as I watch TV, I also do not watch TV because, hell, how many times are you going to watch the same thing? And they're not good movies. So, it's not like, oh, there's so much more to learn from this or anything. It's horrible. So,
you like watch a movie and read a book at the same time?
Well, yeah, or make models or do anything, play with toys or go do something outside, just have it up real loud. This is better than the radio. And I guess we could play radio. I just never played radio, I guess. I watched and turned on the cable.
Except for baseball, but you don't like baseball.
Yeah, I never played sports or nothing like that. I was in scouts, so nobody really played. Well, there was like some kids that played baseball or something because their older brother played baseball. That's about the closest, and they would just not be there for everything for sometimes. But I don't think they liked playing baseball. I think they had to. There was a whole bunch of people I knew that were in Little League and whatever the versions of that are for baseball or in football and stuff, and hockey even. Hockey, not so much because you had to pay so much to do hockey. Like you had to buy all the crap, and then it was just more hassle. Where everything else was like basically daycare. So I knew a bunch of people that were in football and baseball that really didn't like it that much, but there was nothing they could do about it. That's where their parents put them. So you're playing football.
I still like baseball, watching it, but definitely I was terrible at baseball.
And that's the other thing is I don't care. Never did it.
Like it was just expected of you to play the sport from like 6th grade on. Like you had to play the sport for the school, whatever the fuck it was.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't have anything like that ever. I totally forgot what I was going to say. Remember the back room of the rental place? Out here, we had a couple like that, but when I was a kid, I don't know if it just wasn't a thing yet, or if I just didn't go to those. There might have been like one, but sometimes like they'd have like a shelf or something. But there was also that weird like, is it softcore kind of thing where that got super big for a minute, and I don't know. It just wasn't whatever. For that kind of stuff, we were too young. Like we couldn't even if we went back there, we couldn't have rented it or nothing. So we didn't really bother. There was no thrill in just going back there. That's a whole nother thing. I don't think they're going to do a chat on it, but yeah, that's a whole nother element of the video stores that, yeah, as the whatever, as things change or whatever like that, that was a whole nother part of it, really. The amount of good movies in 84 is amazing, but the amount of successful franchises is ridiculous. Well, exactly. And it's not just that the movies are interesting, but like you say, like these aren't just one and done. Like, well, that was a good movie. You never heard from them again. Like, except for Breakin' 2 and except for Conan, everything else was the beginning of.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger still owes me Conan the King.
There's supposed to be 3.
Yeah.
You won't do it.
Robert E. Howard was my thing to read.
You don't think they're going to do an old Conan when he's old? Because he would be.
Yeah, that's Conan the King. He would be. It's when he had already taken over all the things, and he was an emperor at that point.
But vital and strong still, not like
old. Still kicks the fuck out of you, but yeah, old guy.
Because it would be neat whenever he gets to be like just old, like Yoda old.
Yeah, if you remember the last scene of Destroyer, it's him sitting on a throne.
What?
It's him sitting on a throne as an old man. And he said, but that is another story, and they never made it.
I mean, I've seen Conan probably a bunch of times. Because I was still into D&D, I think, back then. But then by the time Conan the Destroyer, I think I might have seen it twice or something, maybe. And that wasn't like at the same time. Like I've seen it, then I might have watched it again. But that's the one with the snake?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, you know, that movie with the ferrets, Beastmaster? That was like, at the end of, like, that one probably was helped responsible for me, like, getting out of that stuff. Like, that was the beginning of the disappointments. Like, dang it, Beastmaster could have been so awesome. And they didn't make it awesome. But I don't know. So anyway, I guess I didn't even realize that there's... Was that Melius also?
That I don't know.
Number 2, I mean?
I don't know.
Conan 2? Okay. So it's not like... it was like... what's the word? Like Star Wars. Like it was a trilogy that never got done. It's just that there's supposed to be 3.
Sorry, my cat's being a dick.
I guess knocking all kinds of cups over.
Yeah, he just knocked his shit over just because he's an asshole. That's the way he goes. He's all black. That's the way it goes. It was fun. I'm going to jump out and go to bed, man.
All right. Well, I was about to say, I think I'm going to start wrapping it up. We have been chatting for a while.
Nice talking to you, barbecue.
3 hours. Yeah. So that's hopefully enough time for a Red Dawn tribute show. So yeah, thanks to everybody who showed up and all the people that voted. At least 7 actual humans out of the 8 that are watching. But unless barbecue's got anything else.
Nah, I've got nothing.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back mañana which meets tomorrow, and we'll be back